All right. Again, welcome everyone. Welcome everyone. It's so lovely to have you here. So today, our topic is harnessing nonverbal communication for impact. The past couple of days, we've learned a lot of things. We've learned how to use your clothing to influence perception. We've learned the concept behind power colors. We've learned how to build a capsule wardrobe for success. And of course, it wouldn't be complete if we do not do something about communication, because we established these past couple of days that it's not just about what you wear. As female leaders, it's not just about what you wear, it's also how you present yourself, how you communicate. So what we'll be handling today is how to harness nonverbal communication, how to use nonverbal communication as a tool for impact. As a female leader, you know that impact is a very, very integral part of your executive presence, of your leadership. Most of what we do is for impact. So we cannot overemphasize the place of communication, whether verbal or non-verbal, when it relates to impact. And our guest speaker is here already, Kimberly Well. Kimberly Well is very, very good at her craft. She knows her onions. She has an experience of over 2 decades. Over 2 decades. She's a speaking strategist, an entrepreneur, an athlete. She's going to tell us a bit about that, because I'd like to know about athletic career. And she has expertise in high-stake short-form communication. She's inspired by the TEDx community and her experience with TEDx events. Her methodology empowers speakers globally. She facilitates trainings, workshops that enhance communication skills and confidence. Now she's going to tell us a bit more about herself, because I know I didn't do justice to all of her accolades, all of her experiences. So Kimberly Well, you are welcome here today. It's so lovely to have you here. It's a pleasure to have you here. In fact, it's a privilege to have you here. So could you just briefly tell us about what you do, even how you got into this line of work, and maybe a little bit about your athletic career? I'm curious to know about that as well.
Well, thank you so much. And first of all, thank you so much for having me, and welcome to everyone around the world. I love that we have such an international audience, and it's an honor to be with you here today and with everyone sharing something that is so important in our world today. And I think, for me, the last place I thought I'd find myself is as an international speaker, speaking at stages like the TED Summit, or working with celebrities behind the scenes, getting them ready to take the stage, or running retreats and mastermind events and helping people share their message in a way that induces change. And look, let's be honest, in our world today, we need a little change. And so it's up to us as leaders, every single one of you listening today, to be that change and to communicate in a way that will accelerate the change that you want to see. And some of the things that we're going to talk about today are going to help you do that right now, today. You are going to be different potentially at the end of this conversation than you are right now. So a little bit more about me. I 20 years ago, I find myself at a networking event and I meet this guy. We have a lot in common, and we end up coming up with this back of the napkin idea, the thing they always talk about, that back of the napkin idea. And it turns out we're in the right place at the right time, because Chris Anderson, who owns TED, invites us to actually create this software application that we had developed and show it to the TED community. So back then I'm in technology. So that's a huge part of my background. And so we designed this software application. It's never been done before. We launched it at TED, and it starts a business all of a sudden. And it also starts an addiction for me with TED and communications. And so I start going to TED every single year. Back then in 2003, this was around 2003, and then going forward, TED was a private event. So you had to have an invitation to go, and it was in Monterey, California. It was a very small group of people that would gather once a year to hear all these ideas about people changing the world. And so I would sit there every year and go every year and hear the cross-pollination of ideas, just like you have set up this summit with cross-pollination of ideas, right? Looking at ideas through different lenses. And so I kind of grew up with this short form, high stakes style of communication, of training, listening to maybe, anywhere from, I would say over 1,000 talks live at this point, at the main TED conference over the years. And so being a student of this style of communication, I started to ask questions. Why does this work? Why does one speaker incredibly succeed while another speaker does not, even though on paper they're both remarkable humans, their bios are outstanding, yet one speaker is remembered and someone is not? Why? So I start becoming this student of speaking and storytelling and communications, which then has now become my life's work, because I'm building a movement of master storytellers to affect change in our world through strategic vision and short form communications, which is what we're going to talk about today.
Interesting. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. I have seen some of your work, and I know I saw some testimonials on your website, people you've coached, TEDx speakers that you have coached, but I didn't even know that your work dated as far back as 2003.
I know, I'm dating myself. It's I feel like I was just a kid back then, you know. And it's funny to think back to those days, because truly being in the technology industry, my brain, and I have a background in business as well. I have my MBA from Pepperdine. And so my brain kind of worked in a very particular way. And I never thought I would find myself on stage. I wasn't that person. Yet it's important and necessary to drive impact. And I know that, and I know you know that too. And so I felt like I have to do this. I can't not do this.
Interesting. It's such a pleasure to have you again with us, Kimberly. Can you tell us a little bit about your athletic career? Just a little bit. I'm curious.
Yes, of course. All the stories, right? All the stories I have. I grew up as an athlete from age 7 all the way up through college. And I used to be one of those fast pitch softball players. You've seen those pitchers. Yes. So I received a full ride scholarship to play softball for the University of Hawaii. And so it was an incredible experience, and I loved it so much. I lived in the islands for many years after my collegiate career ended. And so again, being involved with sports, my family comes from a sports background. My dad was a coach, football coach, and then he transitioned to be a softball coach. And I have that competitive mindset, and I have that mindset of I'm not afraid of work. And I know, that's true for many of us women, right? We're ready to roll up the sleeves and get it done. And so I think that has really served me in the business that I have today and what I do and how I do it. And so with softball took me through college, although I actually had an accident my freshman year of college. It was a moped versus cement truck accident. And I was not driving the cement truck. So I had to rehab. And in my rehab, I was in the hospital, and I woke up 5 days after the accident. It was terrible. But what it also taught me was the comeback. So the doctors told me, oh, you're gonna have trouble with balance the rest of your life. You're gonna have headaches the rest of your life. You're gonna have all these terrible things because all head injuries and stuff from this accident. I wasn't wearing a helmet. And what I learned, it's mindset. It's the sports that I've grown up with. It's how bad do I want to get back on that softball pitching mound? And what's it going to take to get me back there? And so part of my rehab was learning how to walk and balance and again, and I learned that martial arts could be a really good tool for balance and presence and just in my healing. It was a really good choice. So I started training. I met a friend who had a martial arts dojo in Hawaii and started training in martial arts. And that is actually over 30 years. I've been training in martial arts for over 30 years.
Wow. Wow. Incredible. Incredible. Thank you so much for sharing that with us, Kimberly. Thank you so much. I like what you said about the mindset, how you came back even against what doctors thought was possible, how you came back from that. And I think it's very important, Kimberly, the mindset that we have as female leaders. I mentioned something, I think that was day 3. And I said, as female leaders, it's important for us to see the things that we've been through, our experiences, good or bad, but especially bad, more like I am here because of, instead of I'm here in spite of. I think it's very important because you from your journey having that accident, you discovered how important martial arts was. It might have been a discovery that you otherwise wouldn't have made had you not had that accident. So I think it's very important how we see things, the perspective, the lenses through which we look at our past, our experiences. If we see things more from the point of, I'm here because of, rather than I'm here in spite of, I think it shifts a lot of things. It shifts so much in our favor.
I agree with you. Yes, I agree with you 100%, because when we look at humans, we have a superpower as humans, which is we can earn a permanent place in someone's mind with a story, a well-told story. And if you think about that and you think about, okay, is that true? And you think about your life and you think about the stories that have happened to you, happened for you, happened in your life, all of those can become stories. And when we tell stories, we are in service to others. So we're not telling a story because we need to tell the story. We're telling the story so we can help someone else. So anytime in your life where you have a road bump, a hiccup of some kind, a stuck place, you can tell yourself, I could turn this into a story someday and help someone else.
Interesting. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. We just started and I think we're already I'm already feeling the fire. Please, ladies, leave me the fire emoji in the chat if you can already feel the fire from Kimberly. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for sharing your story with us, Kimberly. So today we're talking about non-verbal communication. And I think it's important to state the difference between non-verbal communication and verbal communication, because someone might be wondering, what exactly is the difference between non-verbal communication and verbal communication? So could you help us with that, Kimberly?
100%. And so it's very simple, actually. If you think about it, verbal communication is me speaking, is you speaking. So it's the words that we say. Non-verbal communication is everything else. So things like eye contact, things like gestures, what you're doing with your hands, things like posture, how you're standing, things like how you appear, right? You've talked about this all week, how we appear, it matters. Things like our vocal quality, which means our tone, our cadence, how fast we're talking, our pauses, all of these things. There's also micro expressions. So these are when you're making expressions with your body or your face and you don't even know you're doing it. And you're making, so you might be saying one thing, except your micro expressions are doing something else, which can cause the audience to kind of disconnect or to wonder, oh my gosh, is that person telling the truth? A body movement, how you move, why you move. If you're moving, I like to say move on purpose. So are you randomly moving around? And so I think all of these things can make a huge difference to how we communicate as women and how we communicate our confidence for sure. I think you're frozen there for me. All right. I think we may be having a little connection challenges. Not to worry. We'll be right back getting everything sorted, I'm sure. Yes, yes. We'll get everything sorted. So everybody, I think everyone can see me. Yes, I'm still here. See me and hear me? Yes. Okay. So we'll get everything sorted. Yes. Okay, great. Thanks, everyone. Here she comes. She's back. Okay. Oh, she's mute. You're muted just a bit there. Not to worry. This draws out the suspense. So.
Great. Can everyone hear and see me?
I can now. Yes.
Okay. Great. Oh, I must have missed. I missed the better part of what you said, Kimberly.
It was something profound, I'm sure. I'm just kidding.
All right. Thank you so much, Kimberly. Thank you so much. Okay. There was something you were talking about micro expressions before I got logged out. You mentioned micro expressions, and I quickly wanted to ask if it was possible for you to actually be saying something. I mean, you're actually saying something that you mean, but your micro expressions are saying the total opposite or the complete opposite. Is that a possibility? Or is it a case of whenever you're speaking and your micro expressions are saying something else, your micro expressions are actually right? You're lying somewhere in between. Or is it a possibility that you could actually be telling the truth, but those micro expressions are just telling a different story?
That's a great question. And sometimes it is to where your micro expressions are telling a very different story than what your words are saying. And so the more that we are aware of this, and I'll talk about kind of as we go, when the timing's right, I'll give you all some tools that you can use to have a look at what are my micro expressions and what am I doing when I communicate that I don't even know that I'm doing.
Interesting. Because Kimberly, I've seen some of those clips where psychologists kind of try to analyze if if a speaker is saying the truth, and then they judge by their micro expressions and say, "Oh, you're definitely lying here. You're definitely lying there."
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
And I will also say to this as well, sometimes we have things that we do with our body that we're not aware of. So it's not in a deceiving way. It's we're doing let's go there right now because we're talking about this. So let's talk about our physicality and what we are doing with our body. So let's say I'm doing this interview and I'm standing like this. Oh, back up here. I'm standing like this with my arms down, but you maybe can't see them, but my arms are down and I don't even know I'm doing that. This is what we call a closed off position. So whether our arms are crossed or we're like this or here or this, everyone who's listening right now, if you were to become relaxed, so you weren't even thinking about what you were doing, we all have something that we do kind of naturally where we oftentimes will close off in some way, especially when we're talking. What this shows the audience is that I'm protecting myself. I don't want to give you access to me. I am hiding something. And so I don't even know I'm doing it, but I am in a closed off way. I'm just trying to stay here in the screen, but if my hands are down and crossed or I'm here or anything like this, this is a protective. And so it feels good because I'm protecting myself. I don't want to let you subconsciously, I don't want to let you access me. And so it's a protective mechanism for me, for you, the audience. It feels different versus if I'm here and completely open and say, this is me, have at me. This is, I'm not protecting myself. This is a very vulnerable position for a human to be in because you are exposed, so to speak. Your entire body is exposed. We like to cover because these are our, organs that we want to cover and take care of. But here we're exposed. So as communicators and as people who want to create impact and influence, training this is one of the most important skills. And I'll talk about some others too as we go, but be open. And so one way you can do that is just drop your hands at your sides when you're communicating. And you can use your gestures as you want to emphasize things. You can move closer, you can move farther away, you can walk from place to place, that's fine. But the more that you leave yourself open, it creates a sense of trust. It creates that vulnerability. You might all feel how different it feels to hear me speak in this way, where I'm here for you. My heart is open. I'm here versus I'm here and I'm protecting. And do you see the difference?
Sure, definitely. Thank you so much, Kimberly, for that insight. I know someone might be wondering, Kimberly, how important really is nonverbal communication? Isn't what I'm saying much more important than the nonverbal? So I would love it if you could share an experience or a story that highlights the power, really, the impact of non-verbal communication, how important truly nonverbal communication is for women in leadership, most especially.
I think it's critically important because there's that wonderful saying, first impressions are everything. And this is true. We make judgments, whether that's good or bad. Humans judge. And oftentimes that's not a good skill. That's not something we're proud of. We can't help it though. We do. We see someone, we make a snap judgment right then, right there. And so how we look matters. You've been talking about this all week. In addition to that, our nonverbal cues will say even more than what our words say. I can be talking about something that's very important to me, but if I'm doing something distracting as I'm talking to you, very important to me, you're not going to listen to anything I say. You're not going to hear it because you're like, what is she doing with her hair? What's going on there? Right. So nonverbal cues can distract us in a way that does not serve our message. And so I think, let me think of a great example of this. Okay, I was recently speaking at a university, and there was several different speakers speaking there. And just like today, I was the closing speaker of this event, and the talk went amazing. And someone comes up to me afterwards, and she says, "Kimberly, I couldn't take my eyes off of you while you were speaking. What was it that you were doing up there? Because it was kind of like, it was mesmerizing, and it was so helpful to see you move the way you did. How did you train like that?" And so I was teaching her a couple of things and telling her some of the things that I did. But I think that when we are real and when we are just ourselves, as opposed to trying to be a certain way or trying to be very proper in a certain way, that also can backfire on us as well. So I think the more that we are willing to train and practice, so I talked about practice earlier, train and practice on these skills so that we can be aware of what we're doing non-verbally, and then ask ourselves, is this serving me or not? Do I want to change it or not? Or do I want to bring some nonverbals into my communication that I'm not currently doing today? Because one more thing on this, I'll share, which is humans want to connect. And when you are in front of an audience of 1, or an audience of 10, or an audience of 10 million, we want to connect to you. And what you're doing beyond your words matters, I think, even more than the words themselves, because if your nonverbals are not in alignment, your audience will feel something. They may feel like they don't trust you. They may feel like, oh, she's not confident. They may feel like, oh, she didn't prepare, even though you did. Maybe you did prepare and you're trying to be confident, but your nonverbals are telling a different story.
Interesting. Ladies, I hope you are taking notes, because Kimberly is dropping real gems here. I hope you're taking notes. Please leave those fire emojis. And you know what to do. Take a screenshot. Please take a screenshot of your screen, post on your Instagram story, tag me, tag Kimberly. Someone from my team would leave our links. Please tag people so they can know what is going on here. Kimberly is dropping gems, ladies. Kimberly is dropping gems. So Kimberly said something very important. She said, you have to think about, is this serving me? Because there's something I believe, Kimberly. I often say, if something is not broken, don't fix it. But if you're honest with yourself and you think, is this really serving me? As a female leader, am I actually having the impact that I want to have? If not, what are those changes that I can make? What can I do differently, right? It's all about, what can I change? What can I do? What are those little things? What are those changes I can make? And that's why conversations like this are very, very important. So thank you so much, Kimberly, for that insight. Thank you so much. So still on the subject of non-verbal communications, what are some non-verbal cues that female leaders here can adopt that would present them as confident, or that would indicate confidence, that people would look at and say, yes, this is a confident person, just based off of these non-verbal communication cues that I can see from them? So what are some of those?
Sure, I'm happy to address those. And I see we have a question also. Victoria, could you put your question in the chat? And then we can make sure that we pick that up when it's time to come around to the chats.
Yes,
Thank you so much.
We will have time for questions. We always do. So at the end of this session, we'll have, so just put your questions down somewhere, write them on your notepad or your phone or something. So at the end of this session, we'll leave room for questions.
Amazing. Okay, so here we go. Ready, everybody? First of all, eye contact. And I know for some, eye contact doesn't feel comfortable. And I would say, practice this. Practice with your friends. Practice with your family. When we have that direct eye contact direct to camera, it matters. And I'll show you the difference. So right now, I'm speaking to you and I'm looking right in the camera. So when we are in a place of digital, when we're online, like Zoom or something else, we want to look right at the white dot of the camera. And that camera it might be a right dot or a green dot or red dot, but look right through that lens, as opposed to, watch this. If I was doing this interview and now I'm looking at the Zoom windows and I see you and I can see the chat. And so I'm looking down, but imagine me doing this whole interview like this. That feels quite different, right? Right. So eye contact, we have to do that and train yourself. Look at the camera instead of looking at the screen. And I know you want to see how's my hair doing and those kinds of things. Check that out before you before you start recording or before you go online. If you're doing a webinar, you're doing a workshop, or you're doing even a one-on-one with a client, train yourself to look right into that camera. And if you want, you can take your Zoom window and make it tiny and put it right up under the camera so that it appears that you're looking in the camera. Another trick to do is back up. So if I back up and I'm looking at you here, I can see, I can move my eye contact around a little bit more. So it still looks like I'm looking into the camera, but I have a wider view there. So that's another trick that you can do. And so eye contact is everything. I would also say posture. So how you stand matters. Imagine if I was doing this interview and I was here, and so I'm slouching right now. So I'm just slouching. I'm so happy to be here and I'm so happy to do this interview and I'm slouching. And that is also a non-verbal cue because it doesn't, I don't look confident right now. Do I? Right? No. So posture and how you stand matters. I happen to have a stand-up desk. All the speakers that I work with, I encourage, when you're speaking, stand up. We don't often we don't often sit when we speak, especially when we're giving presentations and things. When we're on stages, of course, we're on stage. A lot of times we have our audience, we're moving on stage. So to the degree that you can stand up, that also helps your body be alive. And then you can be ready to move and to be connected to your audience. So I would say posture. I would also encourage you, as we're looking to boost your confidence, use your pauses. Because pauses can also draw your audience in. If you've ever been in a situation where maybe you're talking and you notice the audience, you're kind of losing the audience for a moment. If you notice that, pause. Usually they will come right back and they'll say, oh, what just happened? What's going on? Right. So breaking your cadence. I like to say in speaking and storytelling, don't be predictable, meaning mix it up and mix up, again, confidence, mix up your tone, mix up your cadence, how fast you're speaking. You'll notice on this interview, sometimes I'm speaking fast because I get so excited about this. And then I have to remind myself sometimes to slow down a little bit, especially if I want to make sure a point lands. And you can do the same thing too. So we have eye contact, we have posture, we have our voice, our cadence, our tone, our pauses. I would also have a look at your gestures. A lot of speakers and thought leaders make the mistake of they have something they do with their body and they're not even aware of. So maybe you fidget with your fingers. And again, if I was standing up, you could see down here, but let's say you're talking to someone and you're fidgeting with your fingers. That does not show confidence. So the more that you can be aware of your body, the better. The more that you have okay, I do this. Or here's another one. I work with people, and sometimes, because they're nervous, and that's fine. We all get nervous. It's good that we get nervous. It means we care. If you're ever frightened, or if you ever feel like, oh my gosh, I'm so nervous. I'm so nervous. Just tell yourself it's okay. It just means you care. It means that you want this to go well. Great. That's good. And so back to what I was demonstrating here is the rocking. We rock to make ourselves feel comfortable. And, a lot of us as babies were rocked, right? So rocking is a comforting thing. So sometimes we do that a lot. Sometimes I work with speakers who are really rocking a lot. And sometimes we do it just a little bit like this. And so either way, this will not show confidence as a speaker because it's very distracting. And you're watching my rocking, you're not watching what I'm saying. And so what I would say, a correction for that one is, if you know where is your power position. For example, for some of you, it might be feet shoulder width apart. So I have my feet right now, shoulder width apart, and you feel solid. Imagine someone trying to push you over. This comes from my martial arts. If someone tries to push you over, and you're going to own your space right here. So that is where you feel confident, and you're owning your space. For some of you, it might be 1 foot forward. This is my preferred way to be, where 1 foot is slightly in front of the other. Again, it's martial arts because I'm ready for the fight. Anyway, but 1 foot slightly forward there can help you feel in command of your space. And so you can experiment and try it 2 feet, try it slightly, try a wider, narrower stance, a wider stance, and find where you feel like you're best. So when you put all of those things, those are just some of the examples together. If I have my eye contact, I have my posture, I am aware of what I'm doing with my hands and my body. I've got my sort of power position from my feet. And all of this is going to show she's here to play. She is confident. I know that was a lot.
Interesting. That you dropped so much gems, Kimberly. And there's something.
Sorry, I get so excited.
I love it. There's something I picked up that you said. You talked about, if you're losing an audience, you pause. And I just wanted to, is it a thing of juxtaposition? Because there's something that I learned, and I implemented it one time when Clubhouse was still a thing, when Clubhouse was popping at the time. So I learned something, that when everyone's speaking so loudly and you want to speak and get people's attention, instead of shouting or raising your voice, speak at a very low tone. And I thought at the time that, but that just doesn't make sense, right? If everyone is screaming and yelling, how would people hear me if I spoke lower than everyone else? And I actually tried it, Kimberly. So I was in this Clubhouse one of the days, and it was so chaotic. Everyone wanted to speak at the same time. So it was so chaotic, it was so noisy and rowdy. And then I said, okay, let me test this out. And I went, hello, everyone, can you hear me? Hello, can you hear me? So and Kimberly, it was like magic. Everywhere went quiet. And I thought, this is so interesting. And the point you made about if you're losing an audience, because the natural thing that someone that's not an expert would want to do is, to try and get the audience attention back. We want to speak faster or louder, but you said to pause. So is it a thing of juxtaposition? Is that it? Is that the concept that played there?
Well, it is. And I would say, and I love your example, by the way, and I 100% back you up on that. It works. That absolutely works, because you can't compete when noise is at a certain level and everybody's yelling and screaming, and you can't compete with that. So if you do have a juxtaposition and go opposite, then that that's going to be what's different. And so what I call that in my work is it's a pattern interrupt. And so what we're doing is, I said earlier, try the best you can to not be predictable. And when we are predictable as speakers, as thought leaders, as entrepreneurs, business owners, when we're predictable, the mind can't help but tune out at some point because it's more of the same, more of the same, more of the same. For example, if I was talking like this at this cadence the entire interview, and this is how I was, and I was answering all the questions just like this, and I wasn't modulating my voice in any way, I can guarantee people are going to be dropping off this call. It's just, you can't, you can't take that in. So what I like to do is pattern interrupt, which means if I notice myself, if I'm like the example I used earlier, if I'm going too fast, I'll slow down or pause. And what that does is any pattern interrupt that interrupts what's normal brings someone's attention in. And so you can do a couple different things. So yes, you can use the pause to pattern interrupt. You can also change your voice to pattern interrupt. You can change the tone in your voice. So maybe you take your voice higher because you're so excited. So you can let your voice go higher. And that's different than when you're talking normally. So you can let your voice go lower if you want to prove a point. Or, so I would say these tools are meant to be experimented with. Try it. Try that pause and see what your audience does. Try changing your voice around. Try changing the speed at which you speak and talk, and you'll see that you'll earn your audience's attention even more.
Interesting. Now that you mentioned this, Kimberly, I'm thinking if you have any tips, because I think sometimes, and someone made a comment, someone said, I get nervous at the introductory phrase of my presentation, but after 3 to 5 minutes, inadvertently synchronized. I think that's normal, but I don't know if you'd have any tips because sometimes I think why people get even more nervous while speaking is we want to get people's attention so bad. And once we sense that we might be losing their attention, then you begin to question, am I saying the right thing? What do I do? So it's that panic in that moment that just makes you go, maybe talk really fast or make a ton of mistakes while you're speaking, because I know it happens to me sometimes as well. So are there any tips for that in that moment where you feel like I'm losing someone? What do I say next? What do I say next? So I don't want to make a mistake. I'm trying to be careful the next thing that comes out of my mouth because I'm trying so hard to retain their attention. So are there any tips for in that moment, little changes or little things that we can tweak? I know you mentioned slowing down is one of them, but are there any more tips for in that moment nervousness?
Yes, I have two very significant ones. Number one may sound a little harsh, and it's this. When you speak, it's not about you. It's about them. It's about the other person. So you ideally want to flip your mindset to say, how can I serve? What do they need? If you're nervous, like we talked about before, know that that's natural and use that. That's great. It means you care. And we speak in service to others. And so what's happening when we're nervous oftentimes is all of the attention is focused inward towards us, such as, how's my hair? What are they thinking of me? Do they like my scarf? Is my scarf in the wrong place? What about my glasses? Someone is yawning right now. So they don't like me. They hate me. They think they want me to fail, right? So we go into this spiral of self-destruction fast. And I know it because I've been there too. And so instead of allowing that to happen and think that's kind of rude in a way to think that it's all about you, because it's not. It's about them. And so the more that you can flip your mindset and outward to say, you know what, I might mess up, and that's okay, because they're going to have my back. This information is too important to not hear. So I'm going to tell it in the best way I can. And if I mess up, I'll acknowledge that and say, oops, okay, I forgot that line. You know what? I want to bring that line back because I want to tell you this is really important and I forgot that. So I'm going to bring that back in. Be a human. And so I would say, think about them. What do they need? How can I serve them? What do they need next? So that's part one. Part two, opening up any talk, any conversation, any speech. If you use a story, it will change your physicality. It will change your nervousness. It will change so much about you as a communicator and a thought leader. And I'll show you why. When you tell a true, real, personal story to open up any communication, you can't mess it up because it's true. It happened to you. I'm talking about real, true stories. So if let's say you're giving a speech somewhere and you start off with a story, it's something that happened in your life that's going to lead to a lesson that's valuable to the audience, ideally. And so when you're in those first minutes, to your earlier question, you can feel comfortable because this is a story. This happened. It's true. It's real. I'm sharing this in service to others. So we put these two together. And if you, instead of, I'm going to open this talk and I hope I remember my lines and I hope I remember the next paragraph and I hope I don't screw up. Again, we're focusing internal. So instead of focusing out, I'm going to tell them this story that happened in my life that is crazy, that I couldn't even write if I wanted to write it. This is a true, real story. And at the end of the story, I'm going to land a lesson that resonates with my audience, that is maybe a universal lesson. So let's say, I'll give you one more example and then I'll be quiet for a minute. Again, I get so excited. So let's say I'm going to give a speech on confidence. And I could come up and hit the stage and say, we must all be more confident than we are today. Our world, so many of us hide behind, computer screens and different things, right? You don't care about that. That's not interesting. No one's going to stay watching. Instead, though, if I tell you about a time where I wasn't confident and something happened, and then I found my confidence and got on the other side of it, and I'm teaching you that so that you can do the same thing too. Now, not only are you more comfortable, less nervous because you're telling a story, your audience thanks you because it's interesting.
So powerful. So powerful.
It is so powerful. It's a game changer. I wish every speaker on the planet would do this. I wish every communicator would do this. I mean, don't you want to hear stories than just talk about facts, right?
Sure, definitely. Now that you mentioned story, Kimberly, can you tell us of a time maybe you worked with a client, maybe a story from a client of yours that you helped maybe transform or help them with their confidence just by tweaking their nonverbal cues?
Yeah, I've hundreds of them. Okay, here's one. I am backstage at a TEDx event I was producing, and we've been working with this. I've been working with this particular speaker for about 8 months on this one talk on one day. So 8 months of work. We're backstage and she's getting ready to go on. She's the next speaker. And all of a sudden I see she's shaking. And she comes up to me and I'm backstage with her. And she says, Kimberly, like, I'm so nervous. I think I'm going to faint. I don't think I can do this. And so I say to her, okay, first of all, let's breathe. And we did some really deep breathing techniques. And I said, I want you to right now in this moment, think of someone you admire in the world, someone that you admire who's a great communicator. Who is that? It could be a celebrity. It could be a teacher. It could be whoever it is. Who is this person? And she thought really quick and she gave me a name. And I said, okay, what are the three words that you would use to describe her as she speaks? And she said, I would describe her as confident because of the way she walks. I would describe her as a subject matter expert because of her great examples and analogies. I would describe her as someone who owns the room because she connects with the audience so well. And I said, great, go out there and become her, become a character, use her characteristics and become her. So this is a technique that I teach, which I call taking on a character. And so you are not going to be her in the real life, but in your mind's eye, you're going to adopt the character traits that you admire in someone else. And so all of a sudden, she stopped shaking. She was breathing. Her shoulders were back. And she takes the TEDx stage and, gave an incredible talk, standing ovation. Like it was amazing. And all it was in that moment was to anchor on thinking about someone else that you really admire. What is it about them that you admire? And say, how can I make that my own? How can I bring that into my work and take on the character traits of someone else?
Interesting. I love that you mentioned that, Kimberly, because I think it's quite similar to something that I do in my coaching practice. And it's something I talk about. I talk about the concept of becoming to be. So I talk about becoming as more a process, being as more a state. And sometimes I think as women, we miss that part where it's like to be this person, to be a confident woman, to be someone that's not scared to share her experiences, to be someone that's not scared of visibility. There's someone that I have to become, right? I have to become that. So I have to step into that persona. And sometimes I think we have it backwards, or women have it backwards sometimes, where it's like, oh, I need to, this is where I'm going, or I need to be this. No, you need to become someone first before you can embody, before you can be that person. So to become a confident person, you first have to step into the persona of a confident person. You're talking about nonverbal cues, right? So I cannot say I want to be a confident woman and I'm slouching like this. No. So I first have to embody the persona. And that's why you talked about your client. You said, mention someone who is that inspirational figure that what are 3 words that you would use to describe her, and you think, how can I embody that? So if confident, if powerful is one, are some of the words I've used to describe this person, then how can I reflect that in my own self, right? How can I appear more confident? I might not feel like it from inside, but how can I embody that? Because if I can embody that, then it will somehow influence what I'm feeling. If I act confident, I'll feel more confident, rather than if my physicality, if my posture is slouched, if I'm looking down, there's no way that's going to help my mood. There's no way that's going to make me feel confident. And I think it's very pivotal to our discussion. I love that you brought that up. I love that you gave that example about your client. It's very, 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 I can see how that dynamic actually works. So I can see some people leaving questions. Please just, like I said, write your questions down somewhere. We're going to have a Q&A session, so you're going to have the time to ask those questions. So please write them down somewhere. And please take a screenshot again of your screen, post on your Instagram, tag Kimberly, tag me on your stories. We'll repost.
Yes, I want to meet all of you and see you. So definitely tag me. I can't wait to
Please do
Yeah,
that.
connect.
Leave the links again. Leave Kimberly's social media, leave mine as well. Very important. All right, thank you so much, Kimberly. I think we've already talked about so much. You do a lot of storytelling in your practice, and you talk about storytelling a lot. What role would you say storytelling plays in a female leader's career? Because as female leaders, we are looking to build impact. So what role would you say storytelling plays, and how much impact truly a female leader can have?
I would say storytelling as it relates to impact is everything. Here's why. Storytelling is the fastest way to build trust between two humans. There's no faster way to build trust between two humans than to tell a story. So if you think about it, when we tell a story, we can learn so much about that person. We can learn what they believe in, how they see the world, what matters to them, what they've overcome, how they respond in certain situations, what their values are, their relationship with family. Everything can come out in a story. So, for example, if I were to read off my bio and I would say, hey, I went to UH, and then I went to my MBA at Pepperdine, and then I did this and I did this and I did that. That's a bunch of facts, and no one cares. It's just a bunch of facts if I were to read that off in a list. Instead of, I could take you into that moment in time in the cement truck versus moped accident that I had, and I could tell that story of my comeback. Now, family is important to me because my whole family flew out to Hawaii to be there in the hospital. Like, how much the comeback means to me. You know what my values are, my work ethic, what I'm willing to do to win, to be an example to others. Like, there's so much that comes out of a story. And so we all have this skill inside us. Storytelling has been around for ever. It feels like forever and ever. I think we've been telling stories. I believe the latest studies are for over 100,000 years. Yet we've only had written language for about 10,000 or so years. So we've been telling stories longer than we've had written language. And so what that means to me is humans are hardwired for storytelling. And we can use this to our advantage, particularly when we want to create impact. So I'll give you another example. I was working with a client, local, actually. It's wonderful. Most of my clients are very international, but I had a chance to work with someone locally. And this is the Humane Society, so for animals and saving animals here locally. And they're doing a huge fundraising campaign because they're building a whole new campus and a state-of-the-art medical center. And so in fundraising, they could go to potential donors and say, hey, I love animals. Don't you love animals? Can't you write us a check to help us with what we're trying to do? And some people may say, okay, maybe if they love animals, maybe they will. But instead, they brought me in to train their entire staff on storytelling. And so this was everybody on the board of directors, all of their employees, so that every single person in the organization could tell their personal story of why they were working or involved with this organization. So not just, hey, I love animals, but when I was 6 years old, we rescued a kitten. And this kitten grew up and it was my life. It was like my best friend. I'm making this up, of course, but so I'm in a story of how I am connected to the organization. So each person in the organization developed their own personal story of their connection with animals, and that's what they use to fundraise. So instead of, hey, write a check, please, because you love animals, it's like, hey, there was this time and this happened, and this is why I am working at the organization I'm working with, and this is why it matters to me. And if it matters to you too, maybe you could come on board and help us financially, or maybe volunteer or be a part of what we're doing because it's bigger than us, right? So this is a way we can use story for influence and use story for impact.
Very, very interesting. Very interesting. And the way you said it, Kimberly, I can already see how storytelling can even impact the way I feel about the cause. It can even bring out emotions I didn't even think I had about the cause that I even believe in. And it's powerful.
So powerful. Oh, I get chills. It is so powerful.
Very
And you hit on something incredible, which I want to reinforce here. It's the idea of feeling. If you are a great storyteller, you will allow your audience to feel something, anything, and maybe multiple different things throughout your story. But the more that we can invite our audience to re-experience the story with us, it allows them to feel what we're feeling as the storyteller. And that connection, again, builds trust. It builds interest. It builds, you hear about the know, like, and trust factor. If you tell a story about your connection with an animal, let's say, not only am I going to know you better because I know your values and what you care about, I'm going to trust you because it's a real, true, authentic story. And I'm going to like you because you're willing to tell a vulnerable story, perhaps to me, and we're building connection. So a lot of people say those words, know, like, and trust, know, like, and trust. Storytelling, boom, one story, know, like, and trust, done.
Oh, interesting. Really powerful again, Kimberly, really powerful. Thank you so much for sharing. Now that you shared that story, I'm curious if you have any personal stories yourself about how storytelling, because the past days we talked about, I think the second day we talked about executive presence and how excuse me, and how important it is as female leaders for us to exude that executive presence. Do you have any stories to share as a female leader yourself in your position about a time where storytelling, nonverbal communication kind of impacted positively on your executive presence, on your presence as overall as a female leader?
Okay, yes, several examples. Okay, here's one. I was being given an award for women in communications. And so what's expected, there was a big banquet, the 300 people coming to the banquet. And what was expected is for me to go up to the podium, thank everybody for making this award possible, thank all the people I wanted to thank, accept the award and sit down. And I thought, I'm not going to do that. Instead, there's 300 people in the audience. There's 300 people that are my potential ideal clients. These are people who I would love a chance to work with, other women in communications. And so I said, all right, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to actually tell a story and train them and give them some tools that they can use right then and there. So here, fast forward to the day of the award. My name is called. I come up to the podium and I step around the podium. I'll talk about podiums in a little bit. I step around the podium and I just launch right into a real, true story in my life. And I come out of the story and actually give them some tools that they can put into practice right then. And all of a sudden, the people are like, this was a luncheon. So the people are trying to find places to write down notes and take some notes. And afterwards, several people come up to me and say, Kimberly, like, I've never seen an acceptance speech like that, first of all. Second of all, how can I work with you? Like, I want what you're having. Like, I want to move on stage like you move. I want to share stories like you just shared. And so I earned actually quite a few private clients from that. I was actually given another award from another organization who was in the audience, who saw me. Wow. And so it's crazy, right? I can't make this up. This is a true story in my life. And all because I dared to do things a little different, to be disruptive, we talked about pattern interrupts. The pattern, go up, thank your people, sit down. That's the pattern. I interrupted that pattern with something different. And so telling a true story connected me to those 300 people out there. So they understood me. They could laugh with me. They could trust me. And so also, I'll just talk quickly on the podium. Remember earlier in the conversation, I said there's a lot of things we do to close off. So we close our hands, we close off, right? And we want to ideally be open if we want to project confidence. Well, a podium shields us. A podium is just as bad as doing this because you're protected. You're protected. And so there you are, you're talking, but you're protected. So I say every time you can, get out there, get out from, or ask them to remove it entirely so that you can just say, this is me, this is who I am, like it or not, this is me. And then you can really connect with your audience that way. Does that help, hearing that story?
Oh my God, it does. It's so powerful. And I like what you said, Kimberly, about it's a disruptive thing. And I can relate what you're saying even to style. We've been talking about style this past couple of days. Again, I think style is a disruptive type of thing because the natural phenomenon, we've always had this, it's like two polarities. Beauty without brains. When you see someone that's beautiful or well-dressed, you think, maybe they don't have anything upstairs. And then when you see someone that's not, or when you see someone that's smart and they're not maybe very well put together, it confirms something again that, okay, you can have beauty with brains. And if you have brains, then you shouldn't care so much about the outwards, about the exterior. And I think style, being very intentional about how you present yourself, especially as a female leader, I think it's a very disruptive thing. It's a very disruptive thing in the sense that, yes, I have the brains, I have the beauty, I have the style, I have the class to go with it. And we're talking about communication. I can tell wonderful stories. I have my non-verbal cues are on point, they're in check. I think I think as female leaders as a whole, I think the entirety of style, non-verbal communication, and verbal communication, I think it's a disruptive thing. I don't know if you'd agree with me on that. Would you agree with me on that?
I do. I actually 100% agree with that because it matters. It absolutely matters. And, I think some people discount how important how we look, what we choose to wear is. And I think that's a nonverbal right there and there is, our appearance. It is one of the nonverbal cues of how do we look? I mean, imagine if I showed up for this interview in sweats or, like that. And to me, it's almost, if I were to do that, it feels to me like I would be projecting an image that I don't care. And I think the more that we take care of ourselves and the more that we choose what we wear and how we wear it, again, we are projecting that we do care and, it matters to us. And guess what? If our style matters to us, maybe other things matter to us too. Maybe we do pay attention to the details, right? So that can, again, put some subliminal messages in for working with particular clients too. That, oh, wow, she cares so much that she, dresses up for her initial call. Chances are, I know a lot of things about her. At least I make some judgments in a good way about her. Like she's probably detailed, she's organized, she cares, blah, blah, blah. So yeah. So I love that. Yeah.
Interesting. Thank you so much, Kimberly. And just to reinforce what Kimberly's saying, as female leaders, it's important too, because I talked about the past couple of days. It's nice to have information like this. It's great to have information like this. But where the problem lies most times is implementation. Implementation. And that's why, ladies, as female leaders that we are, it's important to have people hold your hand through certain processes, through certain things. There are things you cannot DIY. There are things you cannot do by yourself. You need, that's where sometimes working with experts, working with a coach like Kimberly, like myself. This past couple of days, I've talked about the Style for Success Challenge, which launches in August, which is my style transformational challenge for women in leadership. I've talked about that this past couple of days. If you still till the end, I'll tell you more about it. So if you're looking to completely transform your style, because as female leaders, it's a whole package. And I said, it's not just about getting the information. It's about implementation. We took a poll, Kimberly, on the second day. I was like, how many of you here decided that, I'll work out more this year? And a lot of people said, me. How many of you decided, I was going to be on a diet. I was going to watch what I eat. I was going to be more intentional. Everyone was like, me. But how many people have actually kept their promise to themselves? How many of you have actually kept your word to yourself? It's not because you are lazy. 90% of the people, Kimberly, have not. It's not because you're lazy. It's not because you're indisciplined. It's just that sometimes it's hard doing it alone. And that's why you need accountability. So if you are here, you're ready for implementation, not just information, then I'm inviting you to sign up for the Style for Success Challenge. And if you're here, you brought someone with you, you invited a guest here. At the end, you're going to tag the person you invited and you get a chance to win a ticket to the Style for Success Challenge. You also get a chance to work with Kimberly. Kimberly has an amazing program. She'll tell you about it. She also has a special gift for you. So I'd implore you to stay till the end of this event today. So thank you again, Kimberly. Thank you so much for that. There was something I also wanted to ask. Talking still on the subject of storytelling, someone might be thinking, Kimberly, I don't have an interesting story to tell. I don't think anyone would buy into my story. My story seems boring, or I don't even have a story. What would you say to such a person?
So the first time I spoke at the TED Summit, I spoke twice. The first time I spoke at the TED Summit, I was giving a workshop on storytelling. And so I practice relentlessly because it's the TED Summit after all. So I'm thinking everyone in the room is going to be well-versed in story. They're going to know story. They're going to be at the top of the game of storytelling. It's TED and it's an international audience. So I know that I need to focus at that advanced level. And so fast forward to the day of my event, I take the stage and I'm in the front of the room and I'm doing, I'm telling stories and I'm getting everything. And I realize there are a lot of people in this room that are actually new to story and storytelling. So I pivot and all of a sudden I want to include everybody, people who are like aces at storytelling and people who are brand new to this world of storytelling. And everything's going well until I see there's this woman in the corner of the room and she's not participating, and we'll call her Vivian. So I go up to Vivian and I say, Vivian, what's wrong? And she says, Kimberly, look, I don't have a story. And even if I did have a story, no one's going to care about my story. So I just don't have anything to say. And I say, Vivian, have you ever experienced a challenge in your life? And she says, well, yeah. And I say, well, have you ever overcome a huge obstacle of any kind? And she says, yeah. And I said, well, have you ever been stuck and then you got on the other side of it? And she says, of course. And I say, those, Vivian, are all stories. Stories are all around us. Every moment in every day can become a story. And wouldn't it be worth it for you to share your story so someone else can change their story? And she says, okay, I give in. So she starts working on her story and she leaves my workshop that day with her own story written for the very first time. Now, fast forward 3 years, I run into Vivian at another event and I was so excited to see her. And I said, how's everything been going? And she said, since that storytelling workshop on that day, she left corporate America. She was in the US at the time. She left corporate America, started her own consulting business, and has not stopped sharing the stories ever since. And I could not be more proud of her. And look, that is what is true for all of us. We have stories that the world needs to hear. And we have stories that the world needs to hear right now. If you want to create impact, if you want to have influence in our world today, the people that are going to win are the people who can tell stories.
Mm. 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 Interesting. Interesting. So you had Kimberly, we all have stories.
We do. Think about, so I like to say things will either go well or you'll have a story to tell when you get on the other side of that. So anytime in your life, if things are not going exactly as planned, just tell yourself, it's okay. I'm going to turn this into a story someday in service to someone else. I'm going to, right? So you always have that. Is it now from now on? That's my gift to you. From now on, anytime something goes wrong, just say, you know what? I'm going to turn this into a story someday so someone can learn from this. Amazing. What a gift that will be for others. And that's the deal. We tell our stories so that others can change their stories. And I like to look at storytelling in three different.
I love that, Kimberly. We share our stories so that others can change their stories.
Yes, we share our stories so others can change their stories. That's absolutely right. Thank you for all the fire in the chat. That's so awesome. I love seeing emojis.
Leave the fire emoji in the chat. Oh my God, you already know what to do. You already know what to do. Kimberly said, share our stories so that others can change their stories. And you know, Kimberly, the past couple of days, we've talked about personal branding, building a personal brand. And sometimes women hold themselves back because they think, how do I really maybe come online, build a brand online? What do I really share? What do I really have to share? And now you're telling us that every one of us has a story. Every single person has a story. And it's your duty to share your story because your story can change someone else's story.
Yes.
That's so powerful. That's so powerful. Yes. And it reminds me of something in the Bible. It reminds me of something in the Bible, Kimberly, but something in the Bible says that sometimes we go through certain things, we go through certain temptations, through certain things, so that we can encourage others down the line. We can encourage others when they go through the same things. So I'm tying that now to what you're saying about sharing your story. Sometimes, and again, it still trickles down to what I said earlier, that when we look back at our experiences, instead of thinking, oh, this bad thing happened to me, well, I survived in spite of it. It's important to shift our thinking, to shift our mindset to, I'm here because of it. And that way you see how important whatever experience it is, however bad it was, you see how important sharing that experience might change someone else's life, because then someone else could take that experience and say, oh, I'm not alone. Someone else went through it, and this was how they navigated through it. And I can see how truly that can change their own story, because they don't have to figure it out all by themselves. They now have a reference point. They now have someone to look up to say, she went through it. She came out on the other side. I can too. That's so powerful. That's so powerful. Look at all the fire emojis. All the fire emojis. Kimberly's dropping dropping gems. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for that, Kimberly. Now, are some what are some nonverbal cues that female leaders can employ, combined with storytelling, that would improve our executive presence as female leaders?
Sure. Well, we already talked about quite a few of them. So with the eye contact and the posture and our how we are appearing. So those are some of them. But when you tell a story, and you have, so we have the story, we have the nonverbal cues of that story. So I think of storytelling, not just words on a page. Storytelling is the words and the nonverbal cues that you do. So I could tell a story like this, where I never move and I am more like a robot, and here comes a story and I'm going to tell you a story. But probably in that last story that I was telling you about my TED Summit experience with Vivian in the corner there, I mean, she was in tears. It was terrible. She really believed she did not have a story. And so that story, you can bring any story to life with your nonverbal cues, which is, what are you doing with your gestures? For example, when you tell a story, think about a moment in time where something happened, and try not to judge yourself on how interesting it is or not. Let's say you lock your keys in the car. That's a moment in time. You lock your keys in the car. That's a moment in time. How'd you get on the other side of it? What did you do? How did you rebound from that moment? That could become a story. So in any story, see yourself in your mind's eye. So this is where the nonverbal cues come in, because I have the story. I know the story. We'll use the Vivian story as an example. I know where I was standing in that room. I know the door to the room was over here. I know Vivian was in that corner, not participating. She's always in that corner, not participating, if I ever tell this story, because I don't want to change it around. And one time I'm telling a story and Vivian's over here, or she's over there, or she's behind me. That's not real. That's not true. So what I'm saying is, from a nonverbal cue, the more that you have what I call spatial awareness in your storytelling, notice, where are you? If my made up example of you locked your keys in the car, notice the car in your storytelling. Let it be the size it is. I was working with a client, and they had something like a story about a car, but they were like, oh, and I opened the door. Like, you don't open a car door like that. That's like a little kid's car. Like, that's not real. And so that's a nonverbal cue, though, because if I were to tell a story and say, oh, I was getting in my car and I opened the door and I did that, you're going to say there's something not congruent about that. And that could damage your trust in me, because I'm not being real with the story. So if I say I opened the door, I could just say it, or I could show it. We have a saying in storytelling, which is show versus tell. I could say, I get in the car and all of a sudden there's water everywhere, right? So I'm being real with what's real. So I would say, from a nonverbal cue perspective in a storytelling, allow yourself to re-experience the story in the environment that it took place to the best of your ability, and have fun with it. Storytelling is fun. And not only does it connect with the audience and build trust, it can be fun for you to bring that story to life.
Interesting. Thank you for sharing. What are some mistakes, because we're talking about nonverbal cues, storytelling? What are some common mistakes that we can avoid when it comes to nonverbal communication?
Sure. A couple mistakes. So it's different for a live audience versus a digital audience. So let's start here, because we're here on Zoom. So a couple of mistakes that we want to avoid in any time you are presenting or communicating on a webinar like Zoom or something else, you want to be aware of your framing. And so I'll show you the difference. So let's say you're doing a masterclass, you're teaching a masterclass, and let's say that you have your camera set up and you're like this. And so here you are doing the masterclass. You're so excited about this masterclass. You have so much to share. And here you are doing this masterclass. Now, does this feel different? Let me know in the chat. Does this feel different if I did this whole interview like this? And if it does feel different, how? Right? So how is this different? And all I did was change how much space was between me and the top of the screen. It looks weird and funny, right? Right? I know. Yeah. So if you want to project confidence, which is what we're talking about, right? It does feel different. So thank you for getting in there in the chat. If you want to project confidence, you want to have just a little bit of room above your head inside of any screen. And also, like we talked about so much, is eye contact, of course, direct to camera, but it matters. And so a mistake I see people make is they don't pay attention to this. They don't think about this, or it's not your fault. You just, no one ever told you this. So it's okay. Just go ahead and correct it. And I would say also from, I see people who might be giving a presentation and they have notes. So they are reading on the screen like this, back and forth, and you can see the eyes move back. So if you need notes, a trick for this, so that would be a mistake, is to read back and forth so we can tell you're reading. Put your notes right behind your camera. However that is, whether you got to be creative with it, you've got to tape it to something or other, try to put your notes right behind your camera so that we don't see your eyes going back and forth. Another thing you can do, like I talked about earlier, is back up. So if I'm back, now you can't see as easily. If you know what to look for, you will, but as easily, you can't see the eyes going back and forth if you kind of are a little bit back. So that's from the digital world. Also, use your gestures. We love seeing speakers move. And by speakers, I mean, if you're talking to one person, you are speaking. So that we're all speakers. You're everybody here, everybody listening, everyone, you're all speakers. So know that your gestures matter. And especially online, we don't want you like a robot to never move and never raise your hands or never use your hands. So use your hands. Try to notice though, if you're overusing your hands. So if I'm, here and I'm just moving my hands all around, you're not going to listen to anything I say because my hands are moving too much. So I would say, have a look at what you like and try that, experiment with it. Okay, let's move into the real world. Some mistakes that people make in the real world when communicating to small audiences and large audiences, what I call being on the move. So a lot of speakers think, okay, I've got to move, I've got to be in motion. So I need to be speaking and I'm going to keep talking and I'm kind of pacing here, but I'm in motion. And actually that is incredibly distracting. So we talked about earlier your power position. So know where you feel your best, your most confident self. Be there for a period of time until you have something else to share with your audience, a new idea, a new thought, maybe a different paragraph. That's a great time to move. Then you can move to another spot. And then you can make eye contact with your audience, one person at a time, deliver a couple of lines to them, maybe move somewhere else, take a few steps and deliver a couple of lines and move somewhere else. And so that allows you a couple of things there. One is it allows the audience to track you and sort of catch up to what you're saying. Because if you're always on the move, it's too distracting. I'm not going to hear what you're saying. So when you plant yourself, it also draws attention and focus to what you're saying. So maybe your most important points, you step forward in your power with confidence and land that line or that idea that you want to land. And then more of your transitional ideas can be said in motion. So that would be one thing I would look at for a live audience. And then I will also say, when it comes to nonverbal cues, your facial expressions really matter. I think a lot of times we're not aware of our face. when
Mm.
speak, right? And so smile. I have worked with so many speakers the world over, and the whole, they're very serious and they're very proper and they want this to be good and they're nervous, and that's fine. And this is important information. And they're almost like frowning, or they, just so serious. So smiling is part of our nonverbal cue collection. It's in our facial gestures. And the more that you smile when appropriate, the more that it can connect you to the audience and draw them in. And sometimes we have to remind ourselves to smile. If you need to put a sticky note on your computer, do it, whether it's virtual or live. Smiling.
Interesting. Thank you, Kimberly. I think you even touched a little bit on the next question I wanted to ask, because you talked about nonverbal communication for live audiences and online audiences. But I just wanted to ask, do you think that we create more impact in person than online? Or are there other skills? I know you talked about the camera, how even positioning your camera in a way that you fill up the screen as opposed to, just occupying the tiny space is a change that you could make that could increase your impact online. But there are other things. The first question is do you make more impact speaking in person than you do online? And if that's the case, what are some other things? What are some other tips that could help, build that impact, build that online? What are some of the nonverbal cues that we could introduce that could help us boost our impact when presenting online? Because now most people do lots of things online. Post-COVID, most of the things we do, we're having a global event and it's online. So what are some of those tweaks that we could make to our nonverbal communication that could influence and impact our impact on?
Sure. I think, I love to be with people in real life. And when we can, let's do that, because then you can actually have those conversations. You can connect with people one-on-one even easier. You can see them in the audience. Like, I can't see all of you here today, so I would love to see how you're reacting to what I'm saying. In addition, I really appreciate you in the chat, everyone that's been in the chat today so far. I would love to see you. And so sometimes we can't, though. And so when that's the case, some of the nonverbal cues that we can do, again, I can't underemphasize, or let me take that back. I can't overemphasize enough how important eye contact is. And so when we are in this digital world, if we want to establish trust, telling stories is essential, and having that eye contact is everything, because we want to connect with that other human. So I would say that is definitely something. Our gestures are going to be important. So what you're doing or what you're not doing. So any pattern that is repetitive, try to interrupt that. And by repetitive, if you are doing one gesture again and again and again and again and again, that's very distracting. So try to disrupt any patterns that you have awareness to. I would also say your body movement. See online, notice how you're moving or not. And so notice it. I think we covered a lot of this with, if you're rocking, or if you're making, some kind of, maybe you have an itch and you keep itching and you keep itching again. One time is fine, but if you keep doing it, it's going to be really annoying. So, and distracting, right, to the audience. So the more that you are aware, and I would say, here's a tool that I teach all of my speakers that you can do this right now for yourself. Record yourself on video, full body, feet, everything, all the way up to your head. Record your full body of you talking about something you know, maybe telling a story, of something that happened yesterday. It doesn't, low stakes, very low stakes. Maybe something happened, you got a phone call you weren't expecting, whatever it was. Tell a story about something that just happened yesterday and film yourself. This should be ideally about 3 to 5 minutes of you just talking and telling a story of something that happened. It's true, it's real, it's natural. And then watch your recording back with the sound off. Because what you'll see in the sound off is you'll pick up these nonverbal cues. You'll see, oh, I didn't even know I was rocking. I didn't even know I was doing this weird thing with my hand. I didn't even know that, I was kind of coming in and back and sort of swaying back and forth. So you'll see that. So turn the sound off and watch yourself. And then watch again, but this time turn the video off and listen to yourself. And when you listen, you'll pick up some of the things, the nonverbal cues that we talked about with sound. So pace and cadence and emphasizing different words and pausing. You'll pick all of this up and you'll notice, wow, I love how I did X, Y, Z. And I want to change this, this, and this. And so if you do this exercise, this will enhance your confidence. This will enhance you as a speaker and a thought leader, 100%.
Ladies, hope you caught that tip. Record yourself talking about an experience, then turn off the volume and just watch your nonverbal cues. Because sometimes, Kimberly, it's something that I've noticed with myself. I know I use my hands. I use my hands a lot. And sometimes when I watch my videos, I'm like, oh my God, I was just doing this. It seemed like I was just doing this. I was just using my hands too much. So I think that's really important for feedback to help you know what you should tweak, what you should adjust. So that's really helpful, Kimberly. Thank you.
I think a lot of times we don't know what we're doing non-verbally. We just don't know. And that's okay. So watch yourself and then you will. And it helps when you talk about something that's familiar to you. Because if you talk about a subject that's not familiar, then you're going to introduce things that may complicate things. So that's why I go to something that's a story that's familiar to you, that you know, so you see how you naturally do it first. Yeah.
Interesting. Thank you so much for that. Kimberly, do you think that our nonverbal communication, the way we carry ourselves as female leaders, our nonverbal communication, do you think that it could impact the way we are perceived as leaders, how capabilities as female leaders is perceived?
I do. I absolutely do. Let's say you're going to a job interview. Another nonverbal communication is touch. And so let's say you're going to a job interview and it's important to shake the person's hand. In some cultures, yes, and other cultures, no, but let's, in the US, it's very common to shake someone's hand. If you, as a female leader, shake the hand very soft or very, kind of not even a real shake, I know everything I need to know about you. You do not have confidence. You are not confident. That will tell me so much just in that touch. And if that, again, where appropriate. So everything you do is conveying a message. And it's up to you to decide if that message puts you in the place of confidence or not. And so if the more that you can take on these character traits we talked about earlier to say, I'm nervous about this job interview. We'll go back to that. I'm nervous about the job interview. I'm really, really nervous. So maybe your hands are shaking. And that's, again, it's okay. You're nervous. You care. That's fine. Tell a story. Your whole body may relax just because a story in a job interview is going to be real and true and give that other human a way to know, like, and trust you fast. And then by then you'll have your momentum going, and then you can answer the questions, and then you can go even deeper. But you have built that confidence, because storytelling absolutely builds your confidence. And ideally, when I say tell a story, I'm not talking about a 30-minute story. I'm talking about a 2-minute story or a 1-minute story. Just get it in there, and then you'll be off and running.
Powerful. And as you said that, Kimberly, I think about something, and I shared this on the first day. I think about a part in the Bible. It's a book of Proverbs. I think it's a book of Proverbs, where the Bible said that you can tell a fool just by the way that he walks. And whenever I think of that thing, it just makes me laugh. It says you can tell a fool just by the way that he walks. I mean, he hasn't opened his mouth yet, but you can tell that this person is foolish. That's what the Bible says. You can tell that they don't have any substance just by the way they move. And from what you explained, I can see how actually your nonverbal communications, people could pick on that and judge if you are confident, if you're a capable leader, if you are if you're someone even to be listened to, if you're someone to be taken seriously. So I just this is what you shared just reminded me of that story with the handshake, because if your handshake is not firm, it's like, are you really, you're not confident, you don't appear confident. It's very, very interesting. Thank you. Thank you, Kimberly.
You're welcome. Yes.
All right, ladies, Kimberly is dropping gems. I know you have a lot of questions. I know you ladies have lots of questions, and we'll give time for that. I know time is far spent, but we're wrapping up. You'll have time for questions, definitely. So Kimberly, I know there are people here, there are women here that are leaders, are female leaders in male-dominated industries. And I think sometimes women, even though we want to come off as powerful, we want to come off as people, that have authority, but we don't want to be seen as men, especially if you're a woman in a male-dominated field. You don't want to be seen as a man. So you still want to maintain your femininity, those feminine traits, but of course you want to be respected. You want to present as powerful and confident. What are some non-verbal communication tools or communication cues that a woman in that kind of industry can employ to still maintain her femininity, but still come off as powerful?
Sure. I was, and in some cases continue to be, one of those women myself, certainly in the technology industry. So I was in this technology industry for 17 years, and that's a very male dominated field. And also, unfortunately, I mean, it is, that's just how it is. I hope that changes very, very soon. However, being in that environment, I felt like I had to prove myself so much more, because it's not that, I'm an author. I've written 2 books on programming language, which is just crazy. And, so I had that to establish credibility for myself, but I felt like I always had to do more. So it wasn't until I allowed myself and gave myself permission to just be me that I really started, I felt like, to make the big kind of leaps, like creating my own software company. I didn't wait for the phone to ring, or didn't wait for someone to give me permission. I gave myself permission. So I said, I belong here just as much as anyone else does. And I went after my dreams hard in those days. And so I would say, from a nonverbal communication perspective, not losing our femininity is to continue to be you, whatever that means to you. So if you love to dress a certain way and that's part of your style, do that, lean into that. If you love, it's fun to kind of have a thing, whatever that thing is. I mean, some people like red glasses, or, or scarves, or you have something that you kind of becomes your trademark. That might be something. I don't know if you talked about that this week or not, but you can, you can reinforce that so it becomes part of your brand and who you are. And also, do the work, obviously. And I say that because there isn't a shortcut here of like, okay, just stand in a certain way and you're going to have all of these business opportunities flood into your lap. I think it's a combination of things. So I think it's do the work, be someone who is interesting. We like to be around people who are interesting, who have stories to share, who are willing to share a different point of view, a different perspective, a different insight. And so share what you know, share what you care about, share why you're doing what you're doing in the world. And the more that you do that as a woman, the more people will start to take notice, the more people will invite you. And also, again, the more that you really hone in your storytelling skills, the more people are going to want you at the table. And so that's both verbally and non-verbally, the two things combined, because you have something to say. And every single one of you on this call has something to say, something that's valuable, something that can help someone else who might be only 2 years behind you. So wherever you are in your career, there's someone out there that's maybe only 2 years behind you and would love your advice, would love your insight, would love your stories, because it helps them become a more confident leader as well.
Interesting. Thank you so much. You made some really valid points. Talked about being yourself. I will talk a little bit about this concept yesterday, where I talked about how prior to now, what we've heard was fake it till you make it. Very recently, it's shifted to, be authentic, be authentic, be authentic. And sometimes I think as women, it's like, where do we really draw the line? Do I fake it here? Do I be myself here? And but your take is to be yourself, be yourself, be yourself. That's very interesting. And you also talked again about sharing your story, being interesting. And there's something I actually do with my team. I want to hear your take on this, if this could be considered part of storytelling, Kimberly. So there's something I do with my team when I'm trying to drive home a point. So for example, when I tell them, sorry, my lights tripped off. So when I tell them, for example, when I say things like, I don't like excuses. I don't like excuses. And they go, okay. I'm sorry. Maybe they make a mistake. And I tell them, you already know I don't like excuses. And then I try to relate it to something. And I say, do you know why I do not like excuses? And then they go, no, why? I say, why do you think I don't like excuses? They're like, okay, and because excuses are bad. I'm like, no, because excuses do not pay the bills. So I cannot go to the bank at the end of the month to say, can I have some money? These are some excuses. Can you give me money in return, right? When my electricity goes off, I cannot call PHCN, which is our regulatory body here for power in Nigeria. I cannot call them to say, you know what, could you just, I'm having issues with my bank today. Could you just help me, just turn the light on? Could you just help me do that? And, I tell them these stories and I use it to drive home the point. So the next time they think about excuses, they remember, oh, Olere said, you cannot use excuses to pay bills. So I don't know, could that be considered part of storytelling? Because I tend to do that. I tend to do that a lot.
Yeah, I love that. I love analogies, or anytime that we can relate something to something else, can be incredibly powerful. And I would say you could turn that into a story by sharing a time where that might have really happened. So when I look at storytelling, I look at actual true stories that have happened in our lives. And so or you can say, for instance, even to say, imagine the lights go out in my house and I can't even see the door. And so I can see the phone. So I pick up the phone and I call what are they going to say to me? They're going to hang up right on me. So again, you can take it into a story too, and maybe talk about it, for instance. That would be really fun.
Interesting. Really, really interesting. Ladies, please drop those fire emojis. Drop those fire emojis, because Kimberly is dropping gems. Kimberly is dropping fire. Kimberly is dropping fire. Okay, so Kimberly, we talked about personal branding previously, and as a speaking expert, I know personal branding, you help your clients with that, because I know you'd have clients looking to build their personal brands, looking to amplify, solidify their personal brands through storytelling, through nonverbal cues. What are some nonverbal cues that we could employ as female leaders looking to build solid, powerful personal brands? Because we talked about the concept of not just building a personal brand, but a powerful personal brand. What are some of those nonverbal cues, maybe even mixed with storytelling, that female leaders could employ to build a really powerful, recognizable personal brand?
Several things here. One is, I would say, there's different styles of stories that you can tell. One is to have an origin story. So by origin story, I mean, how did you get started doing what you're doing today? And every brand, every personal brand wants to have an origin story of a time where kind of it all started for you. In whatever industry you are, in whatever business you are, we all have these. Just one story, which is what I would call your origin story. And I would say, to help your personal brand, make sure every single person knows your origin story, so that others could tell your origin story on behalf of you without you even being in the room. For example, I have an origin story of how I got involved in storytelling specifically. And that is in a course that I have. And I break down my story sentence by sentence by sentence, so people can learn how to do their own origin story or another style of story. But I would say and that's part of my personal brand, because most of the people who know me or follow me or work with me do know that story. And so that would be one story that you would tell over and over and over with your nonverbal cues. Remember, storytelling and nonverbal cues go hand in hand. So they complement each other. Storytelling isn't just words on the page. I'll repeat that. It is the words, the written word, how you verbally deliver them, and what you're doing with your body and the message that you're sharing beyond the words themselves. And so with your origin story, I would say, do that technique that we talked about. Record yourself doing your own origin story. Record yourself, watch it with the sound off, watch it with the video off. And then how could you make it better? What could you change? What could you do? Could you structure it differently? Could you add more details? What are you doing with your hands? What are you doing? What are you wearing? How about your gestures? What's your face doing? So all of these things can come into play to help establish the brand that you want to be known for. And so when you know with clarity what you want to be known for, you can drive towards that with the way that I call it packaging and positioning. It's the way that you package and position yourself to your audience, your global audience. And storytelling wants to be a huge part of that, so that people know what you're about, how you think, what you care about, what matters to you. And all of this can come through to help reinforce that solid personal brand. And I know, or likely you've talked about this all week, is be consistent with your branding, meaning your colors, with your, I like to encourage all my clients to think of themselves as a premium brand. And by premium brand, I'm not necessarily meaning the highest price, although it may be. What I am saying is a premium brand pays attention to the details. And you can pay attention to the details too. In everything you do, in every touch point to your brand, notice those details and ask yourself, is this the packaging and positioning that I want? And if not, you can up-level that.
Interesting. I like that you talked about being consistent in your representation, and it's something, and that's what even style is about, because we've talked about the concept this past couple of days of building a signature style. You mentioned like the glasses, even if it's a color of the glasses. So it's important to bring your individuality into every aspect, every facet of your life as a female leader. So the way you tell your stories, your nonverbal communication, the way you look, because like you said, Kimberly, it ensures that you have a recognizable brand. Why do we know Coca-Cola when we see Coca-Cola, for example? Why do we not mistake Coca-Cola for some other brand, or like a Sarah or for something else? It's because it's a brand, it's recognizable. So it's the same thing as female leaders. It's very important to have that recognizability about you, that thing that sets you apart. And it trickles down to how you present yourself, how you look, how you put yourself together, how you wear your hair. When we talked about this on day one, someone said, red lipstick is Olere's signature look, right? Because it's part of my signature look. A big hair like this is part of my signature look. Does it mean I don't wear any other form of makeup, or does it mean I don't wear any form of hair? No, but this is my primary kind of look. So it's recognizable. So it's important as female leaders to have a recognizable brand. And Kimberly has talked about your origin story. So something that people can recognize you with. They know that this is your why. So it's very, very, very important. Thank you so much for bringing that point to light, Kimberly.
May I just comment on that too? You know, when you were saying your lipstick, it makes me think of my nails. So I have had red nails for years. And I was like, you know, I'm going to mix it up. I'm going to do like a French manicure. And so I did. And I will tell you, so many people are like, Kimberly, are you okay? Where's your red nail? I'm like, I'm fine. I just changed. Like, okay. Are you sure you're okay? Like, what? You know, it was so funny. So many people reach out to me. Where are your red nails? And sometimes we don't think about that. But when we live the brand, which I encourage all of you to do, live your brand, be you. Like, okay, here I am with my red nails. And this is just part of my brand and how I am. And apparently people are very disturbed if I make changes.
Because again, Kimberly, something it does is it builds trust. Because when I know that this person is consistent with their image, with their representation, it builds trust. It builds trust. So it's very important. And ladies, this is a very important part as well of the Style for Success challenge. Part of it is building, it is you coming out of that challenge, having a distinct style, knowing that this is my style, this is how I want to present myself. So it's a very huge part of your personal brand as well. Kimberly, thank you so much for that.
You are so welcome. And one other thing comes to mind here too, in my dojo, so back to the martial arts stories, there's a huge sign in my dojo that says consistency over time equals results. And it's kind of how I live my life, because the more consistent we are, to your point, it builds trust. On my podcast, you know, I have, I'm coming up on, I think, 200 episodes on my podcast. consistency over time builds trust, it builds the audience, builds people looking forward to that. So whatever you do, you have an opportunity to start at one, and then continue to build. And the more consistent you are, the greater the trust.
Very well, I agree with you, Kimberly. Very, very much agree with you. Kimberly, something I've noticed in my practice, and I think it's something you very well will be able to relate with as well, is women, especially women at a certain level. I think it's even women in general. Women tend to tie their work to their hard work. So, for example, I find that men think more strategically than women do in terms of even career advancement. So, for example, if a woman is looking to maybe get on a board, for example, I find that she's thinking more in terms of maybe I should put in more hours. Maybe I should get an extra degree instead of thinking more strategically. You know, how can I put myself in front of the right people? What are some changes that I can make that would make me appear as a worthy candidate for a board? And I think this is something that you would notice too, working with lots of professional women yourself. If you could share just three strategies that women in leadership can employ aside hard work. What would those three strategies be that could create impact in their leadership as women? What would those three strategies be? And also, if you could share scenarios, examples where the strategies could work.
Sure. Well, first of all, I would say tell the stories. And I live this. I mean, after all, I am building a movement of master storytellers because we need to affect change in our world. And those who tell the stories will win. And stories, like I said earlier, it's dangerous out there because not all stories are true, right? From some people sharing stories. Ideally, everyone who's listening here in this audience, we want to focus on real, true, actual stories. Although sometimes people use stories for bad as well as good. And so we have to be mindful of that. And so, number one, I would say, no matter what, tell the stories, because storytelling is the fastest way to build trust between two humans, to repeat that. And so with a story, you don't have to work harder. You don't have to put in more hours. You don't have to get in another degree. What you do have to do is earn someone's trust. And if you have earned someone's trust, they will open doors for you. They will genuinely care about you and your future, and they will open doors. So I would say that that's part of it. Number two is adopt a practice regimen of some kind. And so, again, from my background and being an athlete all my life, I don't just hope things will happen. I actually put into practice a practice regimen for things I'm working on, whether that's storytelling. And if I block out times, specific times in my calendar that are non-negotiable times to work on my art, which is storytelling. So I will actually have those blocks in the calendar that these don't get moved. These don't get changed. They are my time to work on my skills. And I would say we can all adopt a non-negotiable time in the calendar, whether it's once a week, twice a week, every day, up to you, that you're going to work on your skills as a communicator. Because let's be honest, we have to be able to communicate with confidence. We have to, or else we're not going to get listened to. We're not going to get paid attention to. It's just how our world is. And so these skills,
especially in this time where attention is shifting to like social media, where social media is the main attention. So actually, we cannot afford to fumble on our storytelling.
Yeah. 100%. And then I would say number three would be give yourself permission to play.
Wow.
And here's what I mean by that. We as women, so, and again, I know this speaking from experience, we are driven. We want to conquer. We want to serve. We want to take care of. We want to do it all. We are so often on that hamster wheel of going. And when we invite ourselves to play, it changes the dynamic of what we're doing. So, for example, let's say I'm working on a new story that it's really important to me for a upcoming talk I'm going to give. I'll play with that story in different low stakes environments. I might share it on my podcast. I might share it with a friend. I might share it with a colleague. So I'm in a playful mode of looking at it as an experiment. And I'm going to try out certain things, see what works, see what doesn't work, and then I'm going to refine and keep what I like in and toss what I like out. And so the more that we give ourselves that permission to play, it makes it less, it lowers the stakes in a way that serves us. And what I mean by that is, when we play, we're having fun. It may be a disaster, or it may be something that's brilliant, but either way, okay, we're out there, we're playing. I'm an improv instructor and an improv performer also. And I'm often trying out material on stage to see, okay, what's going to work? What's not going to work? Is this going to be funny, or is this going to be funny, or how are we going to do this? And so I've given myself kind of a lifestyle of play. So I'm going to try it out. And it's either going to go well, or I'll have a story to tell, remember, when I get on the other side of it.
Oh, interesting. So tell the story, have a practice regimen, give yourself permission to play. Ladies, I'm taking notes. I hope you are too. I hope you are too, because Kimberly is dropping real gems. Real gems. Thank you for that, Kimberly. I think that, there's this narrative about extroverts and introverts, about how extroverts have it easier because, it comes with their personality to perhaps tell a story, to put themselves out there. And sometimes it even seems like they get ahead faster, even in their career and in life in general. Do you find this to be true? Do extroverts have the chance to create more impact because they are just more outgoing than introverts are? And if you find that to be true, what are some things that introverts can do? What are some of these nonverbal cues that introverts can employ? What are the strategies they can employ that would really drive their impact as well?
I think our world is more delicious with both introverts and extroverts. I think both styles bring something very valuable to the table. And I think if our world was all one or the other, it may not be as dynamic and colorful of a world. And so I would say for the extroverts, because they feel so comfortable being out there, take your communication game from a 6 to a 10. What does it look like to take your communication game to maybe the Olympics of communication? What does that look like? What would need to change so that you can really dial in and fine tune your skills for those people that feel very comfortable talking extemporaneously and being in front of a crowd? On the other hand, for introverts, I would say your secret weapon is your stories. Here's why. Stay with me on this, because when you understand this, it will change potentially your relationship with stories. When we tell a story of something that's real and true that happened in our life, as I said earlier, we can't mess that up because it happened. It's real. No one can say, oh, you didn't do that right. It's your story. It's real. And the more that you lean into your stories, the more it will build your confidence. So you may not be so excited about being in front of an audience of 10,000 people, though you can go to where your strengths are. Maybe you could tell a story in an audience of 10 people or 25 people and share that story of something that really matters to you, and be real with it and allow your audience to connect with you. And that will build the confidence to do even more and to potentially work with these people, or potentially help these people in some way, or engage with them. And so from a nonverbal cue perspective, storytelling being both verbal and nonverbal, you will adopt so many of the nonverbals just by telling a story: how you stand, where you are, your eye contact, your gestures, your intention, your vocal quality, and what you're changing in your voice, even a sense of touch with that handshake, right? For all my introverts here, practice your handshake. Practice it. Don't pretend like it's going to be great. Just practice it. Remember, permission to play. Practice it. Grab a family member and say, hey, I'm going to shake your hand 3 different ways. Tell me which one you like the best. And try that. So there's different things that we can do here, even if we feel like, oh, I don't really want to be in front of a crowd. I would say tell your story, because it turns the focus outwards. Instead of focusing on you, how's your outfit, how's your hair, what's going on, what are they thinking? Instead, now it's, hey, I'm going to help the people in the room. I'm here for them. My hair might not be the best ever. My eyelashes might not be on point. That's okay. You're giving the audience a gift.
Interesting. All the introverts here, I hope you caught that, because someone said extroverts have more advantages than introverts, but you just learned from Kimberly how you can, as an introvert, how you can tweak certain things, how you can improve on your storytelling, how you can use your non-verbal communication cues to capture your audience. So there's an advantage. And I love what Kimberly said, that the world would be too boring if it was just extrovert, or if it were just introvert. There's a fine balance it creates when we have extroverts and introverts. And it's okay to be an introvert, embrace it. You have certain advantages. And Kimberly just mentioned them. Just improve on certain things. Just improve on, the world cannot thrive with just extroverts. They need us. I would consider myself an introvert myself. So the world needs us introverts as well. So thank you so much, Kimberly. We'll take questions from the audience in a short minute. But before we do that, Kimberly, some people here would be wondering, how do I work with you? What programs do you have? How do I get in touch with you? So I want you to just tell the audience a little bit about how they can work with you.
Absolutely. I work with people in a lot of different ways. I work with people one-on-one. I have mastermind events that I run, and also live events. Although the best way to work with me is to start off with learning how to tell a story in 3 minutes, 2 minutes, 1 minute, or even 5 sentences. So what I found in my work, this is kind of one of my signature offerings, is a lot of people have come to me and say, Kimberly, I want to tell the stories. I don't know how to write a story. I don't know how to sequence it. I don't know what elements need to be in there or not. So I developed a course. It's very compact course so that you could be a better storyteller by tomorrow. And so what it does is it unpacks my origin story, and you get to see what I do sentence by sentence by sentence, transitions, everything. You get to see line by line what I do. And there's worksheets and videos, and then you can write your own, not only origin story, but you can write your spotlight story. You can write case stories. There's a lot of different styles of storytelling. And this will give you that edge and that ability to make the impact, because these stories, once you have this is kind of my signature methodology that I've created for short form storytelling. It's 5 steps. That's it. 5 steps to a 5-sentence story. And it's so simple and so easy to implement. You can use these stories on social. You can use these stories in job interviews. You can use these stories at the beginning of a keynote. Anytime you want to tell a story that allows your audience to feel something and create impact, this is what this program does. So this is a great way to get started with me. And then we can see how else I can help. But this program, like I said, it's short. It's because that's how I roll, short form storytelling. Let's get in there. Let's learn these 5 steps so that you can be a better storyteller by tomorrow. And then you also mentioned I have something special, and I do. So for everyone here who's on our interview, I'm going to do for 24 hours, if you decide to enroll and be a part of this online course, I'm also going to join you live. So I'm going to do a special training for everybody that enrolls in the next 24 hours. And we have timestamps so we know when our orders come in. I'm going to do a special class just for you guys. It's not for anyone who's ever taken the class in the past or any of my other clients. It's just for you guys, because I know you've been through this amazing training over the last 4 days and now today. And so I want to help you tell stories in an even more impactful way. So you're going to get me live also, in addition to the video course as well.
Interesting. Ladies, Kimberly's been so generous, so generous. Kimberly charges nothing less than $10,000 for an hour per time when she's speaking. Kimberly is being so generous by, number one, even being here, sharing these strategies with you for free. Kimberly has been so gracious, and then offering you this benefit on top of that, specifically for you. Kimberly has been so generous. And again, this trickles down to what I said earlier. You've been hearing and hearing and hearing. Information is not the problem. Implementation is. Implementation is. Now just imagine after this summit, you work with Kimberly, you take up the Style for Success Challenge. Can you imagine the impact, the level of impact that you would be able to create as a female leader? So it's important to take implementation seriously. Don't just go back and relax, because information without implementation is nothing. You don't get success without implementation. So ladies, I hope the link to work with Kimberly is in the chat. Yes, the link is in the chat. Please click on the link and work with Kimberly. Again, thank you so much, Kimberly. So before we take questions again, I quickly want to introduce you again to this Style for Success Challenge. It's something that I've talked about all week, all week. So, and this is the last day to the early bird, really. This is the last day. Kimberly also mentioned her 24-hour window. So it's something that if you want to grab her attention live, it's something that you want to grab at a go immediately. All right, so the Style for Success Challenge is on. I hope you can see my screen. So this is for leaders looking to create impact with their style. So it's a 5-day style challenge for female leaders. It's 5 days. And I just quickly want to show you some of my clients that I've worked with. So this is the client of mine, Chidera. You can see her before, you can see her after. And mind you, these are with pieces already in their closet. I talked about it yesterday that sometimes you underrate the pieces you already have in your closet, because again, style is skill. It's skill, it's not a talent. So you might have great pieces in your closet, but those pieces would look like nothing to you if you do not know how to combine them. And this is a great part of the Style for Success Challenge. Okay, this is another of my clients, Fumi. Fumi is the founder of MedPort Nigeria. So she's in a place of leadership. She owns like chains of pharmacies across Nigeria. But there was that disconnect between her position as a founder, as a CEO, and how her image was presenting. So that what we did again was match up her image to fit her experiences, to fit her position. And you can see the difference, even in posture, even in how confident she looks in both pictures. So again, these are the benefits that you stand to gain from the Style for Success Challenge. Dialing down on your style first with the pieces that you already own. So it's not a challenge where you say, oh, go and shop first. No, we work first with the pieces that you already have. This is another of my clients again. You can see the before, you can see the after. What we did here was get in tune with our colors. We did colors on the 3. So this is what we did for my client here, Bisola. So you can see the difference. Again, it's not about changing your entire wardrobe. If you notice, she has the same footwear in both pictures, but you can tell in the first picture, there's something just off about the footwear and the way it just combines with her outfits. You can see how the outfit makes her dull. You can see even the hair just doesn't work for her. Compare that to the second picture. So these are the things that we are going to be dealing with in the Style for Success Challenge. And this is what you get from being part of this challenge. Number 1, you get my ultimate power outfit formula. You can see with my client from here, this is a power outfit combination. And it's a formula that you can copy and paste for yourself so that you can create power looks that present you as confident, so that you can appear as the authority that you are in your field. And then the second thing is my proven Style for Success framework. And this helps you get out of the rut of never having something to wear, having a full wardrobe of clothes, but yet not having anything to wear. What the strategy would help you do is that you can tailor your clothes for every facet of your life. So for work, for church, for events, you have something to wear. And then mindset remodel. We've talked a lot about mindset. And I talked about how female leaders, there's this need for us to be hidden. So what the mindset remodel is going to help you do is to come out of hiding and step into the light so that you can finally be the woman that God has called you to be. Because Kimberly has talked about storytelling, how you have a story to tell. You have a story to tell, you have something to share with the world, and it's valuable. You just don't have something to share, but you have something valuable to share. So the mindset remodel is going to help you come out of hiding so that you can step into visibility and step into that woman that God has called you to be. And we have 3 tiers of admission for this. We have the platinum admission, which is $250, and Naira, it's about 210,000 Naira. And what you get with this admission, you get 5 days entry to the challenge. You get access to the private challenge community. You get access to the Q&A sessions, and also to ask questions. So at the end of every day, we would have Q&A. No, at the beginning, rather, not at the end. At the beginning of every day, we would have an exclusive Q&A session. So you can ask questions about things that you were not clear on the previous day. And you can have me personally answer those questions for you. And then I do a personalized face type analysis for you so that you can see hairstyles that are flattering for you. Again, going back to my client, Bisola, we completely ditched this hairstyle, her before hairstyle, because number 1, the color was not right for her. Number 2, the length was not right for her facial features. And we had to come up with the one that suits her features best. So it's something I'll personally do for you. Then the personalized body type analysis so that you can finally dial down on outfits that work for you. And then you get an exclusive workbook. This is all part of the platinum admission. Then for the VIP admission, it costs $150, which is around 105,000 Naira. You have 5 days entry to the challenge. You have access to the private challenge community. You have access during the Q&A sessions. So you don't get to ask questions in the VIP admission, but you get to hear me answer the questions that platinum participants would be asking. You get the video on how to do your face analysis. You get that video. You get the body type analysis video, but you don't get me to personally do it for you. But you also get access to the exclusive workbook. And then we have the regular admission, which is $50, which costs 35,000 Naira. You get 5 days entry to the challenge. You get access to the private community. You do not get access to ask questions. You don't get access to the Q&A sessions as well. You get access to the videos to get your face type and your body type, but you don't get me to personally help you with that analysis. and you don't get access to the exclusive workbook. So this is what you get from the Style for Success Challenge. So you can just register for the tier that's most in alignment with what you're going for. Now, who is this challenge for? This challenge is for female leaders, so corporate leaders, business leaders, executives, women in the C-suite. So if you have any form of leadership, this challenge is for you. If you're a coach, if you are a coach, this challenge is for you. If you're an expert, a consultant, if you're a woman that runs a service-based business, so for example, you're in real estate, this challenge is for you. This challenge is not for you. However, if you do not have any form of personal brand, or you do not plan on building a personal brand, if you run a product-based business and you don't have a personal brand aside from that, this challenge might not be for you, except of course you're looking to just refine your style, then of course you can take the challenge. So the early bird offer ends today. If you get the offer tonight, this early bird has been on since day one. If you get the offer tonight, if you sign up for the challenge tonight, you get my outfit/lifestyle calendar for absolutely free. Now, what the outstyle/lifestyle calendar helps you do is that it helps you organize your wardrobe according to your lifestyle. Because what some of you would notice is that you have clothes that do not work for your lifestyle. I have clients that one issue Fumi had, which is a client of mine that I said is a founder of MedCourt. She had a wardrobe full of glamorous, flamboyant pieces, but she only went for extravagant events, say once in 3 months, right? So she had a wardrobe full of extravagant, flamboyant pieces that she didn't wear, but they made up like 60% of her wardrobe. So what the calendar helps you do is that it helps you see your lifestyle practically, so you can shop specifically for outfits that complement your lifestyle. So it's a very, very important tool, and I'm giving it to you for free if you sign up for the challenge today. You can still sign up for the challenge after today because the challenge starts in August. You can still sign up for it after today, but you wouldn't be getting this outfit/lifestyle calendar if you sign up later than today. So the link will be left in the chat. Someone from my team will leave the link in the chat so you can sign up for the challenge. Again, implementation is where success lies, not information. This challenge is meant for you to implement, for me to hold your hand and to hold you accountable to ensure that you implement all that you've learned today. All right, so we'll be taking questions shortly. Again, the link would be in the chat. All right, ladies. So if you have any questions for Kimberly, I know some of you were typing questions, but we'll give 10 minutes because we're 2 hours, 30 minutes. I think this is the longest we've spent, but the class was so interactive and Kimberly has poured out so much. Thank you so much, Kimberly. There are lots of thank yous already going up on the chat. But if you have any questions, again, you can raise your hand and we'll invite you to ask your question. But if you do not want to raise your hand, you can just type your question. So there's a question here, Kimberly. I think I'll just read it out to you. Jemima says, thank you so much, Kimberly and Olere. I've learned so much. And there's a question I have from a constant experience in my life. I'm very soft-spoken and I hardly ever shout. And on top of that, I speak slowly and I have a small voice. Quite frankly, I feel it has been more of a disadvantage to me, especially in formal settings. I feel people don't take me seriously. How do I navigate this? Do I deepen my voice in formal settings? Do I increase my pitch? It gets to me, I can't even lie.
Okay.
But someone just signed up for the storytelling course.
Okay, fantastic. And yeah, I'll go ahead and put that link right there as well for people who want to join me. I would love to have you join me on this incredible journey. And it matters. It matters in our world today. And so here's what I would say to this question. Thank you so much for this. I think that so much can come from honoring how you are today rather than trying to change who you are. So if you are naturally very soft-spoken, great. That's your natural way that you are in our world, and that's fantastic. So what if you use your natural abilities to speak in soft tones and also share your stories? And, just like we were talking about earlier, that power of the pause, and it gets people to lead in, or we talked about how you were in that crazy environment, right? And all those sounds, people were yelling, and then you spoke softly and people started to listen. So what if your soft voice becomes an advantage? And this becomes something where you want people to lean in and to hear what you have to say. And I think that the more that you share something that's natural and true, like a story, the more that you will earn people's attention. And I do believe attention has to be earned. We don't just get people's attention. We have to earn it and we have to keep it. And so if you're shouting at someone and forcing your voice in a way that doesn't feel natural, I don't want to listen to that, right? So instead, honor that soft, lovely part of yourself and allow people to connect with you in more intimate settings so that you can share your stories and affect them just as much as someone on stage in front of 10,000 people.
Interesting. I hope that helps, Jemima. It was Jemima that asked that question. I hope that really answered your question. Okay, Mark, someone's asking, what do you mean 24 hours for attendees? You were here earlier, so Kimberly said if you get the course, she's going to be having a live session with everyone present here. So everyone present here, if you take that course, it's something she doesn't do. She's just doing it for my audience here, so which is very generous of her. So if you take the course today, there's a 24-hour window. If you take the course today, get that course today, she would have that live session with you. All right, so Fisayo, your hand has been raised for a minute, so let me so you can come on stage. Let me unmute the speaker so you can come on stage and ask your questions. Okay, Fisayo, you can first, and then
thank you so much. Thank you so much, Kimberly. Thank you, Olere, for the powerful 5-day session. It has been awesome. It's been awesome. Thank you so much. This is my question to Kimberly. In verbal communication or storytelling, at times I find myself unconsciously repeating words like I don't know, it's unconscious stuff, like at the end of every sentence, like so and so and so and so. I don't know, how do I conquer, or I don't know, how do I conquer search? And secondly, when you are holding mic, like you're holding microphone, your hand is a little bit shaky and your heart is beating fast, yet something like that. Yes, you get you actually get it. And you know what you want to say, like, I have the story, perfect story. I have the story is there, is real, but you're a little bit shaky and your voice is kind of, your heart is beating fast. How do I work on myself on that? And to Olere, can we have like a boot camp section with our what do I call it, to meet you and to learn more instead of online class and all? Yeah, thank you.
We'll work on that.
Okay, a lot of questions. So let's see from memory. So first of all, what comes to mind is holding the microphone if it's shaky. One thing is you can request what we call a Madonna mic. So that's lovingly called out, where it goes over ear and comes down. So that way your hands are free and you don't have to hold the mic. So wherever you're getting the mic, they should have the ability to give you that as an alternative. It's better anyway. I like to have my hands free. However, in the situations where you do have the mic, do be careful, because imagine if I had a mic and I was holding it here, you can't see my mouth. So a lot of speakers make this mistake and they hold the mic like this. So make sure if you are holding the mic, hold it lower so that it doesn't obstruct your face in any way. And I would say, as far as shaking, that will be something that, again, with nerves, it will get better over time. And so what you might want to do is, again, experiment telling a story instead of just going right into a talk with facts. And what story will likely relax your nervous system and make you feel even more confident, so that it should decrease that shaking. Also, practicing breathing backstage. There are opportunities to kind of get yourself grounded before you kind of hit the mainstream stage there. And then as far as repetitive words go, just quickly, I would say, if you record yourself and listen to it back, you'll notice when you're saying those repetitive words, and to the degree you can, start to train yourself to replace the words with silence. And if you feel yourself and you want to say, so such and such, notice, don't be mad at yourself. Remember, permission to play, right? Permission to play. You're playing, you're getting better, you're getting stronger. Notice, pause, and then continue. Those are some of the things I would do. Thank you so much for those questions. And yeah, I do need to run here. So hopefully we'll take a couple more questions, and then we'll be wrapping up.
I was just going to ask if you have time for 2 more questions.
2 more questions. Let's do it.
All right. So let's, Stella, you can ask your question, and then Emanuela will go afterwards. Kimberly has to run. She's been here almost 3 hours now.
Okay, good evening, everyone. Thank you, Olere. Thank you, Kimberly. I think this is a master class. Like, I was here from the beginning and I waited. I stayed true. Okay. Thank you so much. This is really good. Okay, Kimberly, you are a communicator, like it mentioned so much about impact and influence. And the world, like I look at it, is a platform to speak every day. You meet people everywhere. You jump on a bus, you're in the office, you talk to people. So how do you talk to people? Because whether you like it or not, you're also presenting, even if it doesn't look that way. But how do you just, knowing that I'm a person of influence and impact everywhere I go, how do I speak to people every day? Not just on the third platform, but everywhere I am, knowing that, oh, I'm a woman of influence. When I leave this place, I am not just Stella, I am this person. How do I just, speak to people every day? Are you friendly all the time? What is Kimberly when she wakes up on a Monday morning and work and all of that? Thank you.
Sure. I say this often. I do what I teach and I teach what I do. So the more that I am me here in this masterclass, when I'm teaching improv, when I'm speaking on stage, when I'm working one-on-one with a celebrity, I am me. And what's great about that is I don't have to remember, which Kimberly do I need to be in this moment? So even on social, I'm me. A lot of my social comes from my podcast recordings. And so I'm just me and I'm talking and here I am. And so to the degree that you can give yourself also permission to play yes, and also permission to be you, so that it's not a different version of you on a different stage. And by stage, I mean, this is a stage, it's a virtual stage. You might be on a stage live and you might be one-on-one. And so for me, I'm telling stories all the time. I open every single episode of my podcast with a story. My mailing letters that go out to my huge community starts with a story. When I'm talking to a potential new client, chances are I'm going to be telling stories, right? So I just have incorporated this way of being into my life. And even today, in our wonderful conversation that we've had, certain stories, just came to mind, like, oh, okay, how about this story, this story, this story. And so you can do the same thing too, so that the more that you don't change yourself for the different environments, you can enhance one thing, you can enhance how you're standing, or how you're moving, because I'm going to move different on virtual versus how I'm going to move on stage. I'm still me. And here's another piece of this, which is so important for every single one of you listening. So this is a great question, which is, we talked about the know, like, and trust factor. And the more that we also talked about consistency over time equals results. So that I'm me here, when those of you who are going to join me in my online course, it's the same Kimberly. So there's not kind of a different persona, so that I'm amazing and wonderful on video in a course, but I'm not live, or vice versa. So I would say, be you and double down on that.
Interesting.
Thank you.
I hope that helped. That was really insightful.
Very, very. Thank you so much.
Thank you for your question, Stella. Emanuela, you're next. So I think this is the last question Kimberly can take. Emanuela,
Hello.
just on go ahead with the question.
Hello.
Hi, Emanuela.
Good evening. Good evening, Olere. I don't know if I got that right. Good evening,
Olere.
Campbell. Thank you. Thank you for this section. It has really been insightful and helpful. My name is Emanuela. I am the CEO of Zikele Solutions. We are basically into solar and inverters. Now, my question is, I am better off a person that you come to and ask any kind of question when it comes to when you want to talk about my field. But I am not that person that would come out and tell you, okay, this is what I do, this is what I do, this is what I do. Or this is how what I do can help you. I don't know if you get what I'm trying to say. Now, it is two different things to be able to come out and say, okay, this is what I do, this is what, like selling yourself practically. I am not able to sell myself to an extent, but I am that person that whenever you have any question, when it comes to solar, I'm a professional. When it comes to solar and inverters, if you have whatsoever questions, be sure to get an answer or a response from me that would help. But I find it difficult if you ask me, okay, sell yourself, I find it a bit difficult to tell you, okay, this is what I can do for you, this is what I can do for you. That's my first question. How do I build on that? Now, the second question is, when I am to talk to a crowd, I'm not an introvert, so I don't know why my nerves get the best of me. When I'm to talk to a crowd, when I come out initially, my nerves get the best of me. And to an extent that sometimes I might even forget what I had planned to say. And then when few questions here and there start popping up and I start answering them, I start gaining my confidence back. I don't know if you get what I'm trying to say. I am better off, ask me questions, no matter the depth of it, be sure to get an answer. But when I come out to the stage to say, talk to people about something, I am empty until somebody's trying to say, okay, how can I do this? How can I do that? That's when I start having life. That's the only time I'm being expressive. So I don't know, how do I work? Like somebody was saying, giving the person a mic. I don't even like to speak on the mic, speak with a mic. I don't even like it, because I think I might not be able to hold the mic correctly or hold it well, or I don't know. My nerves will just get the best of me. So these are basically my questions. How do I build myself to that point where I can actually tell you everything, and then you don't even have need to ask me questions, instead of just waiting for you to ask me questions before I can give you response, especially when this is my field. Thank you very much.
Okay, great. First, to your first question, how do you talk about yourself? I think this is going to feel familiar to you. Tell a story instead of reciting facts. So let's say you're talking to someone who may want to hire you or work with you. You can tell your background about, oh, I went to this school, or I graduated here, or I took this course. Instead, share a story that shows us what your values are, what you believe, what you care about. Any of these will connect me so much deeper than you just telling me facts. And so if you were to tell me a story right now about something that matters deeply to you in this world, I'm going to listen to that, because if you care about it, I'll care about it. And so I would say, start with story. Start with story. Start with story. Start with story. So that would be that answer. And then the second part is about questions you're more comfortable. I think what I heard, correct me if this is not what you were asking, but in a speaking situation, you're more comfortable when audience asks you questions, right?
Yes, please. Yes,
Okay.
please.
Okay. So what I would say is, think about what questions you potentially will get asked and have those answers ready to go before they even ask them. I call this take it off the table. And what I mean by that is, if I know, let's say I'm teaching someone about nonverbal cues, like we're doing today. I'm teaching someone about nonverbal cues, and I know that one of the questions that may come up could be about nervousness, or what to do when someone feels really nervous on stage. So because I know that question is coming, I can pre-think about, how would I answer that? How could I serve my audience? What would they need to know? And so you could start off by actually sharing some of those examples. So let's say you're in front of your audience, you could say, let's say you started with a story, you told a story, you landed a teaching point that was very important. And then you could say, and hey, I know what you're thinking out there. I know you're thinking XYZ. Well, let me tell you, here's what happens when you do this, this, and this. So you're actually answering the questions before they have a chance to answer, or ask them rather, and that will build your confidence as well.
Emanuela, I hope that helps.
Yes, thank you very much. Thank you very much. That helps. But I don't know if I have just a few seconds to clear something. Few seconds.
Kimberly,
Yes.
is that fine?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Thank you very much. What I was actually, okay, there's a scenario that happened recently. I went for one of the CEO meetings, and I came in late because I had other appointments before I got there. And then as I was just entering, the speaker just called me out and said, "Wow, you look exactly like me. I would like you to come introduce yourself, or to come sell yourself to the audience." I was not expecting that. And immediately in my head, I'm like, what's happening here? Why would you just call me out? I'm just coming in something that has been going on for quite some time. And now you're just calling me. I couldn't hold my breath. I couldn't do nothing. I came out and I said a few things I said, and I couldn't continue until a few persons started asking, okay, in solar, how do we do this? How do we know the capacity we use? How do we not overuse a current or underuse current? And life came in like usual, and I started explaining. But initially, they just called me out like that. I didn't plan for it. I wasn't prepared. I wasn't expected to be asked any question or anything. So in scenarios like that, when you just walk into a place and you are asked to sell yourself, like, what do you do? And you're just hooked somewhere and you're not able to go further. So basically, this is why I was bringing this up. Thank you very much.
You are very welcome. And what I would say to that is, have stories in your back pocket ready to go at any time. I like to encourage everyone to have what I call a story arsenal, which means you have one place where all your stories go. Every story idea that you have goes in this one book, or it could be digital too. And you keep all your stories and you work on this. So you work on the stories and you work on developing the stories. So you're never, ever caught off guard. So if anyone asks you any time to speak ever, you know what your go-to stories are. And you have those in your back pocket, so to speak, ready to share. That's what I would say. Amazing.
Thank you so much, Kimberly. Kimberly has spent so much time with us. Thank you so much, Kimberly. Thank you so much for pouring your heart out. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Please, ladies, give Kimberly a big, warm thank you. Just thank you. Also, thank Kimberly in the comments by typing one thing that you took away from today's session. What one takeaway that you had from today's session? Put that in the comments so Kimberly can know how impactful this session was to you. Just one takeaway, one takeaway, one takeaway. Someone says, always tell a strong story. Okay, always tell a story. Someone says, consistency builds trust. Thank you. Thank you so much, Kimberly. Please keep those comments coming. At the end, I'm going to also be picking someone randomly. So if you invited a friend today, you stand a chance to win a free ticket to the Staff for Success Challenge. So we're going to be doing that in a minute. But thank you so much, Kimberly. Thank you so much. There's so much takeaway here. So much takeaway. When telling a story, we should show the emotion. Double down on being yourself. Great. Shit. People came to class. People came to class. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Kimberly. Again, Kimberly has the 24-hour window for the live session with her. If you take her course today, within the 24 hours, right? If they take it within the 24 hours window.
Yes. So to be clear, yes. So I think someone on my team put that in the chat there. And so if you go ahead and register, everyone in the next 24-hour window who registers, I am going to do a special class and we will record it. So if you can't make it, and we'll make sure, time zones, it might be something just like this on a Sunday, same time that we started, because I knew so many of you could make this time. So we'll set up a time for you all, and that way it can take your storytelling to the next level from wherever it is today. If you decide to join me in this adventure, you will be able to tell a 5-sentence story, perhaps by tomorrow. Very exciting.
Please, someone's asking where they can register for the storytelling course. So Mark has left it. It's in the chat. We'll also share it on the WhatsApp group as well. So if you're on the WhatsApp group, we'll share it. It'll be sent to your email as well. You should receive that email. If it hasn't gone out already, then it should go out soon.
I just posted that in the chat as well. So it's storytellingschool.com/standout, because we need to stand out. As communicators, as thought leaders, as women who are confident, we need to stand out. So that's what this training does. And it teaches you my 5-step process. So what's cool about this course too is you will have this forever. No one can ever take away this training for you or from you. Once you have this training, you will have this forever. You will be able to tell a story in 5 sentences or 1 minute or 3 minutes, up to you. So yeah, the link is there.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Kimberly. It's been an insightful evening with you. Thank you for sharing your knowledge, your wisdom with us. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Someone says, Kimberly, are you on LinkedIn? I am. I think she left. Please, Mark, maybe you can leave Kimberly's LinkedIn as well. Please, if you invited someone here today, you know how we did it yesterday, just tag them and tag me. Leave your contact, your email or your phone number, and we'll pick a winner randomly. both you and the person you invited stand a chance to get a free ticket to the Style for Success Challenge, which is a 5-day style transformational challenge. So quickly do that before we log off. Again, thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Kimberly.
Thank you so much. I mean, thank you for this opportunity. You are amazing. The work you're doing in the world matters so much. And I appreciate you for everything you're doing and bringing us all together on this summit. What a wonderful opportunity. And I love how we are connected, even though we're across the world from one another.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Kimberly. Thank you. Thank you. All right. You all have the links again. They'll be in your email as well as the WhatsApp group. So you should get them there as well. Thank you so much, ladies, for attending. Please, if you came with someone, quickly tag them here, and you stand a chance, like I said, to get a free ticket, both you and the person you invited to the Style for Success Challenge. Please quickly do that before we end the chat. It's 10 o'clock. This has been the longest session so far, Kimberly. This has been the longest. It's 3 hours. Wow. Thank you so much for spending your time with us, Kimberly.
You are absolutely welcome. It's my pleasure.
All right, ladies. So if you came with someone, just quickly tag them. All right. Someone from my team would reach out to you. Please don't just tag them, but leave your contact details. So your email, leave your email so we can contact you, or your WhatsApp number. In fact, leave both your email and your WhatsApp number so we can contact you when it's time. Again, we'll pick someone randomly. We had a couple of people yesterday, so we combined that with today, and then we'll pick a pair randomly. Thank you so very much, Olere, Kimberly. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, ladies. Thank you. All right. I think I should be logging off. Kimberly, please don't allow us keep you here.
Okay. All right.
Yes,
bye,
of course.
everyone. I wish you incredible success and confidence. And, you know, our world needs us right now to get out there and share the stories and make the difference. And, you know, remember, share your story so other people can change their story. It matters.
That was one takeaway I had from today, Kimberly. Thank you so much. Tell your story so other people can change their story. Really
Yes.
powerful. Thank you so much, Kimberly. I don't know what time it is at yours currently. What's the time at yours again?
It's 2 p.m. in the afternoon. Yeah.
Okay, all right. Do have a wonderful rest of your day.
Okay, everybody, take care. I can't wait to see and meet so many of you. And again, thank you for the opportunity. This has been tremendous.
Thank you so much, Kimberly.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.
All right. Please keep tagging. I'll drop off in about in 2 minutes. So quickly do that. Thank you again, ladies. Those of you that have been here since day one. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I know you've learned so much. Also, if the recordings would be available once we put them together. I think we've shared the previous days, but what we're going to do, my team and I, we're going to compile them, put them in a playlist, and put them on YouTube so that you can have access to the replays. So the replays are going to be available, but that will take a bit of time. But within this week, you should have the replays on YouTube. Again, sign up for the Style for Success challenge if you're looking to implement all that you have learned so far. So, Deme, Omowa, I hope you've made the screenshots and confirm that the people that they tagged are here in the chats as well. All right, I'll be logging off now. Good night, ladies. Have a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful night rest. See you at the Style for Success challenge. All right. Good night. Bye.
Bye. Thank you very much.
All right, you're welcome. Bye.
Bye, Olere and everybody.